Good morning, everyone. In fact, we are a few minutes after noon, so I can say good afternoon. I'm at-large council member Anita Bonds, chairperson of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration. The time is 12:07 p.m. on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. We're meeting virtually via Zoom to convene the committee's fourth public oversight hearing of 2022, which is also streamed and recorded on the committee's YouTube channel named HEA Committee. Today, we will be hearing from the Real Estate Commission, the Board of Real Estate Appraisers, the Office of the Secretary of the District of Columbia, and the Commission on the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The purpose of today's hearing is to receive public and government witness testimony regarding the performance of the agencies mentioned for FY21 and FY22 to date. I am asking that the public witnesses please keep their remarks to 3 minutes. And of course, our organizational and government witnesses, we want to hear your entire testimony. So therefore, I will also note that the written testimony will be a part of the record. So if you have not submitted your written testimony, please email it to housing@dccouncil.us. As we approach the past the 2-year mark of this global pandemic, that we have gone without so many traditions and events that contribute to the district's character, but we are making improvements and doing better than the early days of the pandemic. Despite the variants that have flooded throughout our neighborhoods and constituencies, we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're here today to plan for the coming year by reviewing our agency's performance. I'm proud of how much our public leaders and institutions have undertaken to rise to this challenging moment. We have issued grants that give small businesses an option so that they can weather economic changes. We have quickly expanded our unemployment programs. We have maintained and improved the delivery of senior and student meals. We've adopted and implemented telehealth and other vital programs and services. We have expanded housing assistance with local and federal dollars, and we continue to provide and improve our programs and services to meet residents where they are. We're here today to understand what has been accomplished this past year and to examine the performance of the agencies that I mentioned earlier. Along the way, we will identify areas of service and successes and improvements. We have the rare opportunity to evaluate how we can be a more equitable DC, where every resident can live up to their full potential and government is there to work for and with them. At this time, I would recognize any of my colleagues that are on with me. Let's see, I don't believe anyone is with me. Am I correct, staff?
That's correct, council member.
All righty, thank you. So perhaps one or two will join me later. So thank you. We will begin today's hearing with the Real Estate Commission. The Real Estate Commission regulates the licenses of professional real estate agents and protects consumers by upholding the District of Columbia real estate license law. The commission consists of 9 members appointed by the mayor, and the commission informs the public and licensees of relevant information by publishing a newsletter, mass mailings, and sponsoring education and workshop courses. The commission has monthly public meetings where members of the public and the licensees may provide feedback, and the commission provides online complaint forms. The primary purpose of the Real Estate Commission, of course, is to protect the public and to ensure that the licensees are qualified to practice in the District of Columbia. And I want to thank the Commission for serving in such an important capacity to protect the interests of DC residents. And I'll now call for our first panel of public witnesses.
Councilmember, we have Scott Ryder from DCAR, DC Association of Realtors.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Ryder. Happy to have you. And you can begin when you're ready.
Good, thank you. Good to see you, Chairwoman. And thank you to the staff for helping set this up today. I'm Scott Ryder, the CEO of the DC Association of Realtors. We represent over 3,000 real estate professionals in the district. And our comments today will center around continuing education, CE classes, licensing renewals, and the Real Estate Guarantee Fund. First, DCAR applauds the Real Estate Commission for successfully pivoting CE courses to a virtual platform during the pandemic. This has allowed licensees to remain in compliance with educational requirements and provide them with the flexibility and the safety to navigate this pandemic. Continuing to utilize a virtual platform will be a helpful regulatory benefit for our real estate professionals. DCAR agrees that in-person courses have their own set of benefits. However, moving past the pandemic, we encourage the Commission to offer both virtual and in-person opportunities. Moving on, last year's DCRA's Occupational and Licensing Division transitioned from having an outside vendor process licenses and renewals to a new in-house system. Regrettably, this shift caused some significant disruptions in our members' lives. First-time applicants and renewals were delayed from receiving their licenses by weeks and sometimes literally by months. While the delays have been substantially abated, the transition has still not been smooth for professionals operating in the district. We continue to receive reports of delays from members, though it has decreased. Finally, DCAR would like to thank Leon Lewis and Jonathan Kuhl for providing us with an official statement on the issue to help answer questions from our members when we're going through these issues. Straightforward communication is essential. Our expectation is that the Real Estate Commission and DCRA will continue to increase efforts in providing updates to the public regarding licensing changes. Lastly, the Real Estate Guarantee Fund is a crucial consumer protection fund the Council created decades ago. This tool helps ameliorate situations where DC residents are victims of unlawful conduct in real estate transactions involving licensees. The fund also provides educational programs to help professionals improve their real estate proficiency to help avoid unlawful conduct. Unfortunately, the pandemic has inhibited regular classes, but our members look forward to seeing them resume. Presumably, presently we're satisfied with the Guarantee Fund's posture and ask to be included in conversations surrounding any proposed changes. As always, thank you, Chairman Bonds and the Housing Committee for the opportunity to provide comments. DCAR would be glad to follow up with additional information or answer any questions.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Ritter, I do want to ask a little more. Can you go further with your concerns about the Guarantee Fund? I know that's been an issue over a period of, years. And so I just want to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. It just seems that we've had enough time to fix this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. We are been very appreciative of the council, particularly yours, Chairman Mendelson's support of the fund and using overall resources to help supplement it. And it's definitely in the right direction. Sometimes it's just been, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I think the classes have been delayed somewhat. And so we look forward to getting those back up and going again.
All right. Okay. All right. So you feel that we are moving in the right direction, and once the pandemic sounds like we may be seeing a stark improvement in the next few weeks, certainly in the next few months. So we'll try to keep our eye on that. Because is there any other way that the classes can be offered? I know you mentioned your concern about the in-house licensing process, and there are delays.
Yeah, it's just things have been a little shaky, but we understand it's a pandemic, and but overall we think things are going in the right direction. Just want to see that they continue to do so.
All right. Okay. Well, if you say now, are you also sharing that the in-house licensing process is improving? Or is that
Yes,
still kinks in that process?
there are still some kinks, but it was pretty bad a few months ago, but it's definitely, we're getting a lot less calls than we were. And like I said, Director Lewis was very helpful in putting out a statement helping us have answers to our members.
Can you share what are some of the what is the issue? I know the delay time, but why is there?
I believe it was soft. As I understand, it was the software was a little glitzy getting it up and running.
Okay. All right. So we'll try to examine what's going on with that a little later. So thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Good to see you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. We will now, of course, turn to our government witness, who is the chairperson of the Real Estate Commission, Mr. Frank Pitcherton. And I will now swear you in. All right, I don't see your picture, but I will swear you in if you will raise your right hand. And I suppose that little symbol there is your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements that you make before us today to be truthful and complete?
Council member, he might be having technical difficulties.
All right.
He's muted right now.
Okay.
Let me try to chat him.
Can we unmute him?
Yeah, I asked him to unmute. I just sent him a message.
Muted on your end.
All right. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Chairperson Bonds. Good afternoon. I'd like to run through the printed submitted comments quickly and then be happy to discuss any issues with you afterwards.
All righty.
It says they want to start my video and I thought I said, okay. Yes, there I am. Okay. Good afternoon. As you previously stated, I'm Frank Pitcherton, Chairman of the District of Columbia Real Estate Commission. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of Mayor Muriel Bowser at today's hearings to discuss the activities and accomplishments, and if necessary, the pitfalls of the DC Real Estate Commission in fiscal year 2021. I'm currently serving in my 4th year as chair, and I'm pleased to continue the commission's work to protect the public, especially in this challenging time of COVID. I have the privilege of working with a dedicated group of commissioners, along with a dedicated staff and legal counsel, who together work tirelessly to achieve our mission. The commission's duties, as you stated, include taking disciplinary action against licensees who commit wrongful acts, ensuring the applicants for licensure are properly qualified, administering continuing education programs for licensees, and overseeing the Real Estate Guarantee and Education Fund. Commission members include our Vice Chair, Yolani Goldstone, Attorney Member, Edward Downs, Broker Member, Joe Borger, Property Manager Member, Elizabeth Blakesley, Broker Member, Erica Black, Chairperson Member, and Monique Owens, Property Manager Member. Since I last testified before you and this committee on March 18th, 2021, the Commission has remained steadfast in fulfilling its duties, adjusting to COVID challenges by utilizing Cisco WebEx platform to hold all of our regular scheduled meetings. This has allowed for much easier meeting access by members and members of the public, and we have seen a marked increase in attendance of both licensees and public members, resulting in a more timely communication, better clarification of concerns, and I'm pleased to say we've had very positive feedback for the convenience of providing the virtual attendance option. Like Mr. Ryder, I would hope this will be, it will be possible to continue the virtual format, at least for members of the public in the future. Additionally, in fiscal year 21, the commission continued to attend the Association of Real Estate License Law Officials mid-year and annual conferences, both in person and virtually. These meetings have allowed members and staff to receive the highest quality training in the administration of license law and regulation, license education, training and enforcement, as well as participate in leadership opportunities. Currently, we are fortunate that 2 of our commissioners hold positions on the Arello board, and 1 of our commissioners is chair of the Fair Housing Committee. Arello committee meetings are attended by all members and staff. With regard to licensure, the commission recently renewed the licenses of over 15,000 licensees. A rather impressive number of licensees remain active in the real estate business despite COVID in the District of Columbia. This is likely attributable to the sustained interest in serving the real estate needs of a growing populace who want to live and enjoy the benefits of the district's vibrant neighborhoods. We suspect this trend is likely to continue. On the regulatory front, final rulemaking was published in December 25th of 2020, which included additional education requirements for the practice of property management. The rulemaking requires 6 hours of property management for all renewing property manager licensees and 3 hours of property management for all renewing salesperson and real estate brokers. The continuing education requirements are being implemented for the renewing cycles 2021 to 2023. On the education front, the commission continues to expand its educational offerings through public-private partnerships with local agencies and private organizations, DCAR being one of them, as you just heard. During fiscal 21, the commission offered virtual courses on legislative updates in DC fair housing. In conjunction with the DCAR, the commission also is sponsoring a series of virtual seminars on historic preservation in the spring of this year, as well as additional courses in fair housing and ethics. On the compliance front, the commission continues to enforce Occupational and Professional Licensure Act of 1998 by receiving and reviewing complaints from the public. This year, receiving over 50 complaints that we have put into process or adjudicated. The commission values the transparency and publishes newsletters regularly, as well as consumer alerts that the public and licensees can view online. Newsletters include disciplinary actions taken by the commission and articles for educational purposes or regulatory requirements. In conclusion, the commission will continue to dutifully carry out its responsibilities of protecting the public by upholding the letter and spirit of the real estate law. The commission appreciates the opportunity to share accomplishments and future plans with you and looks forward to continuing to work with Mayor Bowser and your committee. As always, thank you for your leadership and support in this area. That concludes my testimony. Commission staff and I are happy to address any questions at this time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your testimony. And I do have just a few questions. One, you mentioned that you have more than 15,000 active members despite COVID. And I wonder, is this a stark increase in membership over the last few years or prior to COVID?
No, ma'am. It's been on the increase probably for the last 10 years. It's been more significantly witnessed in the last 5. But we have an increasingly vibrant city and a number of people are interested in being in the real estate business here.
All right. Well, you've led me right to my next question and somewhat a point. I wondered if your organization would consider going into our schools, our high schools, and doing a little education regarding fair housing and what that really means. Because I suspect there will be young folk who are looking for a career, and perhaps your industry could offer them an opportunity, if not as a broker or representative, but certainly maybe as a property manager or an assistant property manager, because it sounds like this industry is growing. It's one of the few that are growing in the city. And so I'm trying to think ahead as to how we can lead our young people into some productive activities, so to speak.
Well,
So I wonder.
I would applaud your efforts to begin education at an early age. And I think my fellow commissioners would be happy to participate in any program where we were able to bring more real estate education, more regulatory information to members of the public, starting as early as high school, I think would be useful.
All right, so we want to follow up with you on that,
Okay.
and see what we can do, see if we can bridge the gap between the commission and perhaps DC schools, to see where we might be able to go with that. My other question is, you said there were about 50 complaints this year. What is the nature of the complaints? Was there some exceptional complaints or something different from the last 5 years during this COVID season?
No, I think COVID may have actually reduced the number of complaints because it reduced the interaction of real estate professionals and general members of the public. We couldn't have open houses. We couldn't do a lot of things that we would normally do. But we have had about the same level of complaint, and that is usually a misunderstanding of what the obligations are of each of the parties in a transaction. Oftentimes sellers do not feel they have been provided with sufficient information to make good decisions, or in the case of property management, that monies were not flowing to owners as anticipated. Some of these complaints are clearly a matter of everybody understanding what their job is, and sometimes we need to clarify that in the process. Other times there are actual aggrieved individuals, and those get passed on to the guarantee fund. But I wouldn't think there is any particular area that needs a great deal of attention beyond just more general information. I think people oftentimes get into a transaction without really understanding what's at stake.
So this leads me to really double down on the need for maybe introducing real estate and real estate transactions to our teenagers who are on their way to setting up their own house, let's say. But certainly they need to understand, how this process works, and how they can, become a part of it. So I would really think that would be another area that we would want to look at in the whole education process. So I would like to see us move in that direction. So I'll work on that. I'll work on that with you and the school system.
All right. The commissioners, I think all of my fellow commissioners would be more than happy to assist you in that regard.
Oh, that's excellent. Regarding the guarantee fund, what's the status of the guarantee fund to date?
I'll turn you over to staff if they are on to give you exact numbers. We don't always have timely numbers provided to us. The last we checked, there was a sufficient amount of money in the fund to meet the council's guidelines or recommendations or requirements that were set probably 8 years ago or so. We don't have any need for additional monies to my knowledge.
So have we, the government or your organization, in any way tapped these funds recently?
If we submit a complaint for guarantee fund action, we don't do our own adjudication, as you know. The DCRA in-house attorneys do that. I would think the majority of the complaints have not been guarantee fund issues. Some are just plain old regulatory licensee admonitions, or in some cases, the removal of a license for inappropriate behavior. But of the committee review of complaints, I would think we've only had maybe 10 or 12. Again, staff would know how many we have referred to the guarantee fund and what the disposition of those referrals is. I don't have that information. If there are staff on, they may get that. If not, I will get you that information and forward it to you.
Yes, please do, because our next set of hearings is on the budget itself. And one of the things that we are famous for doing at the council is looking for every penny to make sure that all of the dollars that come into our so I'll call it come into our treasury are expended on an annual basis.
Right.
And so just want to make sure. So if you could get me that information, I would greatly appreciate it.
Be happy to.
All right. All right. Is there any area? Oh, I do want to ask you, you have 2 vacancies on the board now?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Our public member, Christine Warnicki, decided to move her volunteer activities into a different area. And our agent opening previously filled by David Foster, who left the commission to work in other areas.
All right. And so when we look at the boards and commissions information, it indicates that these individuals serve until new appointments. So how do you plan on doing that?
Well, we are required to serve until our replacement is named. However, we don't have the power to insist that somebody remain on the commission if they have the interest in leaving. So in the case of David and Christine, that was their choice to move to other areas of interest. We do not find that to be a punishing issue, because we still have 7 members, and that's sufficient to review the legal issues that are brought before us.
And so what is your quorum for your to do your business?
Well, right now we have to have 4 members of the commission.
I see, majority, okay. And so Ms. Warnke and Mr. Forrester, one represented Ward 3, another Ward 5. We already have, if we count them, we have technically 3 representatives from 3 and 3 representatives from 5, 1 from 7, 1 from 2, 2 from 2, and the other wards are not represented. And I guess for me, I'm concerned because real estate is significant across the city. And I wonder if you have had the opportunity to talk to maybe the talent office or to the mayor to encourage that we get some other representation from other parts of the city.
Well, I think COVID has been a real restriction for us. We do not have the opportunity to network, as they say, or meet with other realtors to express our desire to have somebody come on to the commission or to listen to their interest in coming onto the commission. I think we do need to do some more outreach, but also the process probably needs to be expedited a little bit so that when we do identify somebody with the talent and the interest to serve on the commission, that we can get them through quickly.
All right, well, thank you. And I see Mr. Lewis is on. Welcome, Mr. Lewis.
Leon is muted.
You're muted.
Okay,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Now
you
we
hear me
can
now?
hear you. Yes,
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. It's a pleasure seeing you again.
you too. Let me swear you in just as a formality. If you would raise your right hand, Mr. Lewis, do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements made before us today to be truthful and complete?
I do.
Thank you. All right. That's necessary because you're an officer of our government, so.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Can you talk to us about the status of the guarantee fund?
Yeah, we right now we have a little better than 1.4 million in our guarantee fund, which is well above the minimum balance. And we haven't expended too much money from it. We have a pending guarantee fund claim that has to actually go through the process of getting a judgment. We got that near the end of last year. So we haven't paid a claim in a while. And in terms of expenditures on the education side, we offered courses last year to all of our licensees last August. And as the chairperson said, we have a partnership with the Historic Preservation League with regard to doing seminars each spring. As a matter of fact, we have proposed the commission as approved funding for that a couple of months ago. So other than that, there haven't been too many expenditures coming out of the fund. Of course, it also pays for training with regard to the commission members and respective staff that is voted on by the commission. So we haven't had too much activity there, but there's always something there in terms of education that we do each year.
All right, and so you heard my concern or interest in seeing if we can't get the real estate industry into the schools. Now, I have not talked to the school system, but it just seems to me it's an aspect of information that would be important and could be significant as we're looking for career opportunities for our young people.
Yeah, that's correct. You know, I work with 5 boards, and a lot of the boards have expressed interest in doing that. We have an education component with our assigned to the commission, and I'll be working with our education staff in terms of working with the school system on actually forming a partnership, as you mentioned. Any help we can get from you is always helpful. And
all right, well, let's follow up on that because
okay.
It's such an exciting industry, and I see it as a way to, keep young people sort of involved in community in a very positive way.
Yeah, and also with young people, you have to start with them very early in life. So the earlier the better with them. So I agree.
Oh, you're not suggesting we start at elementary, are you? Because you will have to write these curricula, okay? Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, in the past, I have participated in outreach with the elementary schools. That was years ago. So with the high
well,
schools,
that's
it's more appropriate.
interesting.
But I think the
That's
high schools are more appropriate.
All right, well, or at least middle school, coming
Yeah.
out of middle school. All right, okay. All right, well, I'm going to look forward to seeing how, if we can create something that can be meaningful and at the same time tie our young people more solidly to the neighborhoods in which they live and the city in general.
Yes.
All right, so
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. So thank you all very much for your testimony, and I look forward to seeing you at budget time, I suppose. But I think your budget is all in DCRA budget, correct?
Yeah,
All
DCRA
right.
handles, yeah.
So this is your last opportunity to talk about the past budget and talk about what's going on into the future. So have we left anything out that you think the public would be interested in?
Know that we're continuously working diligently to protect the public interest, which includes everybody, all the public consuming public doing business in Washington, D.C. in real estate. So we continuously do that. We have an excellent commission, and they have had all of their scheduled meetings. And as Chairman Patranson said, they have opportunities to participate in all of our meetings virtually. So we're continuously working hard to protect the public.
Well, you know, Mr. Lewis, one of the things that we run across a lot in the housing committee are individuals who are performing a task as a property manager, or let's say a chair of a condominium board, individuals who seemingly lack the skill set necessary to keep their members informed, and therefore to get a lot of the work of these entities done in an efficient and effective way. Just this morning, I got a call from an individual who is living in an environment, and the person who is the chair of the condominium board is also the property manager, is the one who is executing and making decisions. And I just wondered, when we talk about training, just how deep does the training go? Does it only go to those that make application, or, you know, like come to you and say, I want to be trained how to do my job? Or is it that you take a proactive approach and actually take the list of all of the rental properties that we have throughout the city and reach out to those individuals or those entities to meet the property managers and make sure that they at least have very basic training so that we can improve the quality of living for everyone in the city?
Well, as the chairman mentioned, we have implemented coursework, much additional coursework in property management. And I'm sure as we move forward with the whole area of property management, that we can be more inclusive in terms of the public at large. But for right now, the commission has been focusing in on our licensees and making sure that they understand the principles of property management and a lot of the responsibilities that are inherent in that occupation. So that's something that we can continue to expand with the whole advent of property management. We're one of the few jurisdictions that actually license property managers. I think it's probably less than 15, 20 states that actually do this. So it's an area that the commission, you know, is from an enforcement standpoint, ensure that all property managers in the city, you know, understand the whole basis of property management, a lot of responsibilities that go along with that. So that's something that, you know, we can continuously do and be more inclusive of the public.
So in other words, there is no particular mandate in the district that if you are managing a property, and that you must go through a training curriculum that you prepare at your commission.
Well, We enhanced our outline for property managers, brokers, and salespersons, because a lot of brokers and salespersons do property management. So we revised our subject matter outline to include additional hours in property management. So the commission has mainly been focusing on the licensees in this particular area in order to get them additional training in that area.
So are property managers in DC required to be licensed? And
Yes.
if they are, okay, so
Yes,
if they're required to be licensed, are they considered your members that you subscribe to, or is it just the agents and the brokers that are primarily your membership base?
Yeah, the salespersons, the brokers, real estate brokers, and the property managers, we have 3 license types. So those are the ones that we focus in on in terms of ensuring that they are properly up to date in terms of what's expected and responsibilities of property management.
So if I am at a property and I'm designated the property manager by, let's say, the owners, am I required, or is the owner required to notify the commission that Anita is now the property manager? I'm trying to get us real clear, because this is a problem area in the District of Columbia. And it sounds like you can be a property manager or have that title and maybe not have the skill set, certainly not have the training that your organization provides. And I think that's a big problem area for us.
Yeah, that's there, but if you're managing property in the District of Columbia, you must have a property manager's license.
Okay.
You
So
must be
then
qualified. Yeah.
So you actually then do have access to all of those individuals that have a property manager license.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you've got access to it because there's a list somewhere. And so what I'm asking, is there the ability of the commission to reach out and sign these people up for a training session?
Well, as a licensee, you're required, there are core classes, and that's the direction the commission moved in with regard to taking property management classes to continuously to be educated in that particular area. So they are required before they renew to have taken these courses.
Okay, so in other words, I can be designated. And then when it's time for me to renew my license, in order for me to get my property manager license renewed, I must go through your curriculum. That's how
correct.
it's triggered.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And what is the renewal time frame for property managers? Is it every 2 years or every 10 years or?
No, they renew. We're on a 2-year cycle.
2 year, okay.
Yes.
So ultimately, everyone can go through your training in a 2-year span of time.
Yes, before they renew again, they must have taken the, well, we just started the continuing ed in property management. So with our next cycle in 23, they will have had to have completed the required core classes in property management.
Okay. All right. So can you show me what your figures have been in the way of those property managers who have taken the test, let's say in 2019, 20, and of course, 21? Want to get a sense of what's going on. I think this is such an important area. And then I'd like to talk to you offline about some of the procedures that we're running across that just don't seem to make sense. They're taking advantage of their members or those that they're working on behalf of. And maybe you can point me in the direction. You know, it's not always about litigation. it's sometimes about just not knowing, or knowing that there is Big Brother, Mr. Leon Lewis and Mr. Frank Petron, who are going to be looking at what you're doing and how you're doing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can't give you the exact number now in terms of those that have been licensed in the last couple of years, but I can get that to you.
All righty. Thank you very, very much. Can I get it in about, 7 to 10 days?
Yes.
All righty.
That's
Thank you.
reasonable.
Thank you.
Ms. Bonds, if I may add something,
Oh, yes, please do.
that is, there is no requirement for an owner of property to tell us who he or she is designated as the property manager. There are lots of people who don't believe that they are required to be licensed property managers. So we have no jurisdiction over them until we have them licensed. And that's an area that I think probably needs some attention, because many of the cases that you're probably seeing are unlicensed property managers. We can do, and that's why we have education requirements for property managers. We also instituted property management education for all agents and all brokers. But we still don't have control over the entirety of those providing property management services. Many people don't think they need to be licensed.
All right. Sounds
that's
like
the
there
truth.
needs to, yes, thank you. Sounds like there needs to be some further design, either through the certificate of occupancy, which is very important, and everyone understands the value of that, or some other mechanism. Because it seems that if you have 10 units and there is someone who takes care of the property, maybe they're not property manager, but they're there to be responsive to these residents, then some training is probably necessary. And so we've got two things to work on: getting education into the schools and getting education to those that are managing these properties or taking care of these property, caregiver, whatever category of title that they may have. So,
And we'll be happy to work with you on those issues.
thank you. Thank you very, very much. We're trying to move our city forward. We've got a lot of people here. And as we get closer to becoming a state, we want to have all these processes in place that work, that benefit, the people of our city. That's the goal. So thank you both very, very much for your testimony today.
You're quite welcome.
All righty. Oh, one question. You last published your newsletter in 2020. Are you going to do another newsletter?
Yes, we
Soon?
just talked about that at our meeting on yesterday. So there
Okay,
will be an upcoming newsletter coming out.
so you will be publishing one in 2022?
Yes,
All right, and it'll cover 2021 as well as 2022 up to date, because you do this in July.
yes.
All righty. All right, thank you so very much again.
Our pleasure.
All right. Next up is the Board of Real Estate Appraisers. The District of Columbia Board of Real Estate Appraisers regulates the practice of real estate appraisal, including the functions of a state appraiser, certifying and licensing agency. Additionally, the board protects consumers by enforcing the District of Columbia's real estate license law, and the board consists of 5 members appointed by the mayor. The board holds monthly meetings that are open to the public. And so I'm going to turn to, we have not received any inquiry or testimony from public witnesses. So we'll move to our government witness, who is Chairperson, Ms. Pappas. And Ms. Pappas, I see you are here, and we will swear you in. Welcome. Nice
Can you
to
hear
see
me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
All right, you have your right hand up. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements that you make today to be truthful and complete?
I do.
Thank you, and you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Can't decide whether my glasses are good or not. First of all, I do want to apologize. I lost you last year.
Yes, we missed each other. Oh my
I
goodness.
know, like
yes.
right at the end when I had things to say, you know.
Yes,
So,
yes.
But that's all right. We got it together now.
All right.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds, members and staff of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration. My name is Tamara K. Pappas, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Chairperson of the District of Columbia Board of Real Estate Appraisers. Thank you for inviting me to testify on behalf of Mayor Muriel Bowser to discuss the activities and accomplishments of the board in fiscal year 2021. The board's members are Andrew Sullivan, appraiser member, Martin Skolnick, appraiser member, Kiara Passant-Houghton, consumer member, and Margot Wilson, real estate broker member. I would be remiss in my role as chairperson if I failed to compliment the continued support of the board staff and legal counsel and the superb job they do in facilitating the many activities of the board and supporting me. Our newest member, Martin Skolnick, attended his first meeting in June 2021. Since that time, he has been actively involved with the board, attending and participating in all the scheduled meetings. In light of COVID-19 and its challenges, I would also like to mention that the board continued to successfully hold its meetings virtually via the Cisco WebEx platform. This virtual platform provided for a greater attendance by the public, and appraiser licensees and the board received many favorable comments. Regarding the fiscal year 2021, DC Board of Real Estate Appraisers is uniquely situated as the only professional licensing board within the Office of Occupational and Professional Licensing Administration that is federally regulated under Title 11 of the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act of 1989, commonly referred to as BREA. Accordingly, the board is mandated by Congress to follow BREA as amended and its accompanying rules and regulations. Additionally, the purpose of the appraisal subcommittee, the ASC, created by BREA, is to ensure that federal financial and public policy interests in real estate transactions are protected by requiring the real estate appraisers' utilization in connection with federally related transactions, and that are performed in writing in accordance with the uniform standards and by individuals whose competency has been demonstrated and whose professional conduct will be subject to effective supervision. In general, the ASC oversees the real estate appraisal regulatory framework, and it relates to federally related transactions as defined by chapter or Title 11. Throughout FY21, the board reviewed exposure drafts issued by the Appraisal Foundation, Appraisal Qualifications Board, the Appraisal Standards Board, and the Appraisal Practice Board. During FY21 and FY22, respectively, 68 and 10 new applicants were approved for licensure in 4 categories, including trainee, licensed residential, certified residential, and general and certified general. The appraisal subcommittee offsite assessment. The ASC requires that an audit be conducted every 2 years to verify that the board is maintaining compliance with BREA. The board and staff members provide periodic reports to the ASC, as well as timely updates regarding disciplinary actions taken. The disciplinary actions are entered into a national database. The board has been informed by the ASC audit that the ASC audit will resume in 2023 due to COVID-19. The caveat on that, they did a sort of a virtual assessment last year, and just to kind of check in with us. So, efficient complaint investigation. Real estate appraisals are the result of the evaluation of several complex factors. The nature of the work often means that complaints from the public alleging faulty appraisals require an appraisal expert's opinion. To ensure complaints are thoroughly reviewed in a timely manner, the board hires appraisers on a contract basis to review the complex complaints. This process has worked out well and resulted in clear and comprehensive complaint summary reports submitted to the board's review in a timely manner. National influence of the DC Board of Appraisers. DC Board of Appraisers continues to be successful in maintaining our membership with the Association of Appraiser Regulatory Officials, or ARO. The spring and fall annual conferences bring together top regulatory officials from around the country and keep the board abreast of key developments impacting the board's enforcement and federal regulatory requirements. The ARO annual conference is held in the district each year. Last year's spring meeting was held virtually from May 3 to May 5th. 2021. I'm happy to report that the fall conference was held in person in October, from October 15th to 18th, 2021, where attendance was good. The board was well represented in attendance at these meetings. Again, I was duly reelected at last year's annual conference as a director on the ARO board of directors. I'm also on the executive committee, as well as several other committees. In addition, I wanted to add here, it's not on here, that I am currently the chair of the Appraisal Qualifications Board Advisory Council that meets with members from the Appraisal Foundation and their qualifications board. So that's a new one for me. So. Educational programs. The board continues to move forward, expanding its educational offerings through public-private partnership with numerous local agencies and private organizations. During FY21, the board sponsored 2 historic preservation seminars virtually for all licensed appraisers with the DC Preservation Board and the DC Real Estate Commission. This coming year, the board will sponsor another 2 historic preservation seminars. Attendees will receive 3 hours of continuing education credit. These seminars represent a continuing effort by the board to ensure our licensees are knowledgeable about our historic districts and disclosure requirements. On December 10th, 2021, the board sponsored a continuing education course entitled National Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Update Course. This course provides updates and the changes to USPAP. on the side note there, it's required every 2 years that all appraisers take this in order to renew their license. We will continue to maintain rigorous continuing education requirements for our licensees and offer board-sponsored courses for its licensees annually. The board has continued a process to assist our trainees in making sure that their work product and logs are completed correctly and to help them avoid any rejections by the appraisal board. This is done for the trainee and their supervisor without any penalty and is meant as a learning tool. Mostly make sure they're on the right track. So, board initiatives. During the fiscal year, the board will be, during this coming fiscal year, the board will be working with the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking on developing a forum entitled Bias in the Appraisal Process. I should note that there is no evidence that bias exists, and the board has not received any complaints or evidence of bias. Additionally, the board will be doing outreach with the Appraisal Institute on developing academic programs to prepare students for careers as appraisers in historically Black colleges and universities in the District of Columbia. You notice I got ahead of you on that one. So I did. I saw, I'm like, no, I have to make sure I get that in there. In conclusion, the board's members consider our role a great opportunity to serve the citizens of the District of Columbia. We will continue to carry out the board's many responsibilities, including establishing high standards for pre-licensing, continuing education, investing consumer complaints, penalizing bad actors, complying with federal requirements, and engaging with professional regulatory organizations across the nation. The board thanks Mayor Bowser and this committee for your leadership and support. We appreciate the opportunity to share its accomplishments and plans for continued involvement and look forward to continuing our work with the committee. This concludes my testimony, and the board staff and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for that testimony. And yes, you did get ahead of me on this question of would you do training? Well, but
That's right.
This is a very important aspect of your work, because
Right.
as you know, nationally, the message is that the appraisal process discriminates against
Right.
homeowners of color, particularly Black homeowners. And so I'm very sensitive to that and thinking about what can we do in the District
Right.
of Columbia that moves us to another level, a more positive level. So with that, maybe we'll start with that. As you say, your organization does training in Black colleges in DC.
Not yet. Not
Okay. You
yet.
will
Yeah.
do it. Okay.
Well, yeah, the Appraisal Institute, which is just one of the premier educators in the country. There's several, but they have already started an initiative to work with American University. And so we came up with behind that and under that, I'm like, well, I think we should bring it to the historically Black colleges or UDC or at some level there, because there is a requirement for 2 years of formal education. It's an associate's degree. It doesn't have to be in any particular discipline, but we thought, and the trend has been that the national appraisal industry has been going to colleges, and we've developed some programs that could be incorporated so that all of their educational requirements to come on and sign up to do the training to be an appraiser are sort of handled at that level. And so as the board, we were like, well, why can't we do that more locally at a level that's more affordable, and that's more sensitive to bringing in a diverse population, and that's our goal. So we're looking at what they're creating at in conjunction with a American University. For us, we just thought that's a little high level for what we're looking for. We don't need a 4-year degree, and we want to make sure that there's equal opportunity for this. So we're bringing, looking at, but it's just at the very beginning of that process.
Okay, well, if you're going to go to the historic Black colleges, please remember to go to Howard University.
Absolutely.
Yeah, UDC
Well,
is
that's
a
where we
land
were
grant.
thinking. Well, yeah, UDC was just one. Howard was our other. I mean, that's
Okay,
the two we're looking at
I
for
would,
Howard. Yeah.
yes, I would think. And then you also have Trinity
You're right.
University, because they particularly have a groundswell of students that
Right, they
are
do.
locally are here in the district, and they tend to be older students, which might mean that they're looking for a change in career and
Right.
very interested in
Thank you for
this
reminding me of
profession.
Trinity. I knew Howard, I had Howard in my mind. I had UDC and Trinity. Of course, that's a great one. Thank you.
Okay, just have a few questions.
Sure.
When we look at your 5-member board, and you indicated that I believe Holton is a consumer member,
Right.
and it looks like she may be absent more than there for your meetings. And I just
Yes.
wondered if that is a problem, although I would imagine your quorum is 3, and as long as
Everybody else shows up.
yeah, you and Mr. Sullivan, and sounds like Mr. Stolik he's showing up. So it's really Miss Wilson and certainly Miss Hoffman who are not there. Is there some way that we can maybe deliver balloons to her home and tell her she's a bona fide member and we need her with this particular work?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. She did just recently have a baby, but we're doing this virtually, and we're only asking for 2 hours. It very rarely does it go over 2 hours a month. And it is important that all of our members make an effort to be here. Now, I noticed on here, I'm not sure which is an actual factor, that Margot, it looks like that she's been renewed for 2 years. It was my understanding that she had fulfilled her obligation and received a letter from the mayor that her term was over. But of course, she gladly continue to serve. And we are looking to see if there's another broker member that is willing to come on. It's willing to come on board. And it'd be nice if it was from 2, 5, or 7.
Yes, it would be.
I mean, we can't cover all 7, 8 rather boards, but
yeah,
we're not too bad.
No, you're better than real estate, right, Mr.
Poor
Lewis?
folks. Yeah.
Yeah, we noticed that. Okay, that would be perfect. What we have in our records is that Miss Wilson has been appointed. Well, it says appointed in May of 2016, and her expiration is June of 2024. Is that what your records say?
I mean, that's not what she told me. She told me she got
Okay.
a letter that her term was up, and that she'd be glad to continue to serve. So I
All
don't
right,
know.
we'll check on that
Yeah, I'll have to
immediately.
check with talent and
Yes,
commissions and
staff,
boards and
would you make a note of that, please? Amelia, thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
it would be nice to have them all accurate to know exactly.
Oh, yeah,
what's
definitely,
what.
definitely. You can't
'Cause-
operate unless it's an accurate
Right.
list.
Because I need to renew too this year.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yes, I do. So we'll have to get
Yes.
on that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Leon,
Miss-
make a note of that.
Mrs. Snolik as well as Ms. Holton. Yes, exactly. Well, I wanted to just ask a little bit about this. Where is it? Let's talk a little bit about what is on everyone's mind when they think about the appraisal process. Given that the cost of housing is just shot up like a rocket, and given that those who own these properties are ecstatic, they're thrilled that this is the case. But for those that are trying to purchase, it's almost prohibited that they would have that opportunity. So, but we also know that for instance, a 4-bedroom with the same built from the same materials on the same size lot in Hillcrest Ward 7 is assessed quite differently than one that is on Nebraska Avenue.
Yes,
As an
yes,
example.
it is.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no,
Or
that's a
on-
good example, and I
Yeah.
can.
So why is that the case?
Okay, so and one of these days we will get to sit in person, and I will go through this process with you.
I would
year
love
four,
that.
year 4 now. We've been trying to work on this.
I know.
So, so the very first thing is you have to examine your community. Okay, so you start with, where's your community? Okay, your community is Hillcrest. Okay, it would not work anywhere. First of all, we have a general 1 mile guideline, which is only a guideline, and sometimes you do have to go more than a mile away, depending on, like if you've got a dome house, you have to go find another dome house somewhere, But if you've got
but when you think just that in itself, 1 mile, and DC, I can drive from southeast to northwest and have not done a mile.
I know. So that's the appraisal out there guideline. What the very first guideline is, you need to be in your community. You need to be with property that is affected by the same surroundings, whether it be metro or, if you've got a shopping center in metro and access to linkages to get out of the city, but you need to be within your same community, because you are appraising what the market response is. So I can't go from Hillcrest and go to Georgetown. You can't do that. You have to stay within your community. Now, if you're in a subdivision, you're best to stay in your subdivision. And then only if you've got something really different about your house do you go and bracket whatever that is in a like competitive. So you need to go to competitive communities. And if you've got like, Suitland Parkway blocking, traversing, you can't go then get on the other side of Suitland Parkway. There's natural barriers, man-made barriers that divide communities. I live in Southwest. Well, could go to Southeast, but I'm probably not going to if I don't have to. If I have appraisal, is going to be in Southwest in my community. And so that's the number one guideline why the same house built by the same well, we don't have that many builders, so, but let's say a brick house that's been renovated or updated and it's got nice appliances on a nice sized lot. You need to stick to apples and apples and within your
Okay.
community or competitive. It's just, it just wouldn't fly. You know, I know it's a rough subject,
Ms.
but
Pappas, I truly understand exactly what you're saying. And you know what my response would be.
I know.
And so you and I we're gonna have tea,
Yep.
most definitely as soon as we come out from this, because what you're saying is that where I live is affected by my surroundings.
Mhm.
I suspect it's even affected by the quality rating that are given to the schools, whether or not I have amenities. You made that very clear.
Amenities, the school, I mean, we can say it's a very good school, but we can't quantify that as easily, you know, so I tend to not even bring that into, I want to
Okay.
know. Yeah, that's not part
I
of
see
my,
some advertisements where they're saying, come to this community, great schools. So that's
Of
why I
course.
threw it out
Oh,
there.
yeah, no, and real estate agents will do that. Come, you know, because
Yeah.
they're in the selling.
Yeah.
We have to look at, okay, where does that come up in the value? Is that what it's, yeah, I've never seen an appraisal where they put Dunbar and then they put blue, you know, I mean, you know, where they put the actual school. You can't quantify that. I can't, where it's a very analytical process of appraising.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
I
I'm
will get
ready
there.
to meet with you. This is the new horizon, Mr. Lewis, where we are going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I dare say my
Now-
goal is to bring about any kind of change that will be for the better of the city.
Right.
So
Now, one
that-
thing I wanted to add to that
okay,
is some of our new developments.
okay,
I mean, look at the H Street corridor. You know, the city is whoops, I keep losing my ear. City is pushing east. Look at Lincoln, out on Lincoln, what's it
Fort
called? Lincoln
Lincoln?
Park. Yeah, Fort Lincoln. Thank you.
Mhm.
Beautiful townhouses, you know, 5, 6, 700,000. I mean, they're right there. So it's, and that's, you know, that's a lift for the whole city. Now, granted, you have to be able to buy it, you know, and get in there. And I know we're still dealing with that. But it's got the Costco there. You've got, you know, what is it, Lowe's or Home Depot or one of those things there. And there's a push going into Anacostia, you know, that's where people are refurbishing their own homes. They're increasing their own value because all that matters, you know, the
Okay.
level
So
of
the fact that we are getting the new development up Good Hope Road and Alabama Avenue,
Mhm.
Skyland, that
Mhm.
will increase the value of those homes, which is sort of touching
Absolutely.
on Hillcrest.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Now, do you live in Hillcrest?
No, I do not. I
love
live
Hillcrest.
down in the central city.
I know you do. Yeah. No,
you know,
Hillcrest is it's just a great old community. You know,
Mhm.
it's yeah.
good community.
Yep.
Would the addition of bike lanes add value to a community, you think? I'm just trying to think of some of the things additional things we're doing in neighborhoods.
Walkability is a big one. Safety, so bike lanes, where people don't have to ride their bikes out in the road, because we are becoming more and more of a biking city. And
But how do we
walkability.
get the bikers to stay in the bike lanes as opposed to all of the streets? Do you find that to be a challenge?
Yeah. I don't know. I know some streets have lights where they're supposed to stop and they don't,
Oh, yes, that's
yeah.
true.
But our pedestrians are sometimes not very good either. They just walk without ever looking to see that,
On
sometimes,
their cell phone crossing that intersection, never look up. Yes.
and sometimes the car actually has the right of way. Everybody's come to a stop. You're supposed to, okay, you got there way before I did. But I've been a walker and a driver and rode bikes in the city. So yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that DC public schools or a charter school does not necessarily improve the value
no,
in a respective neighborhood.
No, it's just we don't appraise it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it'll affect it. People want to buy. I mean, you can talk to Frank about that. It's a selling point, clearly. And I can.
What about the environmental dumping grounds? Does that
those are horrible.
distract the dumping grounds to, not dumping grounds, I shouldn't say that, but the transfer
Landfills,
stations, yes.
Yeah.
Or where we may have industrial, like buses or trucks, or even police vehicles, or some large area where we have vehicular traffic that adds to the pollution. Does that distract from the value of homes in that neighborhood?
Not necessarily. I mean, you've got urban communities where you've got a police station right down the street. They've got the cars parked. You've got the bus that you want. You want the bus to be there so that you can catch the bus. We're an urban city. I know we're like urban suburban, but even the suburban areas in the city, except where there's big land mass, they're still fairly urbanized.
So does that mean that if we are a urban suburban, or classified that way, does that mean that I'll say our outer communities being upper northwest,
right,
far southeast, far northeast,
right,
even where you live in southwest, is that considered more suburbia?
No, I'm urban.
That's all urban. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand.
Now, if you get out, let's say Cleveland Park, where there's land, where you've got more suburban, Crestwood even.
Or the park areas.
Where you definitely that. And then you get out into Wesley Heights, you get out into Spring Valley, get out even to Kent. But when the lots get smaller and your zoning is more condensed, it's more urbany. Okay. Where you can walk down, like if you're in Kent and you can walk over to MacArthur, or something like that, or even what they're building, the new in Northeast up near where Fort Totten is. That's more urbany than suburban, because they have smaller lots.
All right. So it's really the lot size has a lot to do with the appraised value.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how much can you put on that lot? Can you put a pool in the backyard? Can you put big patios? Can you add on to your house? That expand.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate this discussion. Mr. Lewis, I appreciate this because there is a lot of misconception about what an appraisal value does to a property. And even that it therefore means that if I'm appraised higher than I have been for 2 or 3 years, now I know for sure my tax bill is going to go up. You know, they correlate the two. And sure enough,
Well, now they
does go
don't
up.
they don't know. Now the tax department does their ad valorem, but if you've gotten a loan and you've appraised higher, I mean, it does show up in public records, but you know, when an appraiser does an appraisal, it's good for that day. I just want, it's as of the day I do the inspection. Now, something could happen in several months. My appraisal shouldn't necessarily, you know, impact what's happened. Now you could sell it. Once you sell it, then that becomes a true value. See what I'm saying? Mine's an opinion of value as of the date I appraised the property.
I see. All right. So
Yeah.
there is an art to the work of appraising. I got it.
Yes.
Well, I can hardly wait for tea with you. Thank you so very much.
I know we are going to do this. So
Yes, yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you,
you're very,
Mr.
very
Lewis,
welcome.
for being here. In the event we got stuck on something that
Actually, we didn't this time. Thank you.
no, we didn't, but we covered a lot of territory, and I'm
Yes.
thank you for that. One question though, do you feel that we need to change the standardization of appraisals in order for there to be a sense of more fairness from all of our homeowners? Do you see any avenue for change?
Well, right now, we are in the process of, like I said, I'm working with the folks over at banking, because they handle the appraisal management companies, and working with the bias issue and understanding what bias is, because bias isn't even always color-based. We go in with our own biases just about general things, about, and we, you know, those what do they call it? Not unintended, but unconscious biases that you have about things. And we all have them. You know, we grew up with a certain thing, so we think that's the best, and we see something else and we don't like it. So we end up having an opinion about that. And making sure that our appraisers become conscious of what their unintended natural biases may be, so that they can become more conscious of everything, that it's not about who lives in the house. I always tell people when I go in your house and let's say they've got stuff. Oh my gosh, if I'd known you were going to take pictures, I would have cleaned the house. And, you know, I told them I was going to take pictures, but that's all right. And I always stop and tell them, it's not about your stuff. I don't care about your stuff. I'm here to appraise the structure. If this house were vacant, you know, my mind needs to be as if there's nothing in this home. And I think the more we train, and we are actively, the Appraisal Foundation, the Appraisal Subcommittee, we're all very actively looking at this and working on this. We're looking at, we have some coursework coming up in May when we're going to San Antonio for our spring meeting. And this is upfront and personal right now, that we're not just what we typically think of a bias, but all those unintended biases. And yeah.
So in DC, where we have a preponderance of dogs in condominiums and in homes, would that be a positive in the appraisal process, or would you automatically be looking for deterioration of walls and things like that, or scratching and gnawing, or
Well, I mean, if there's scratching and gnawing, I might say, yeah, it will affect my opinion of the condition.
Mhm.
It may make it more average rather than good, or that type of thing. I don't appraise dogs. So, and there's lots of dogs when I go in houses, cats, dogs, you name it. It's really very clinical. We're looking at the general condition of a home, the level of upgrade and upkeep. It can just be a well-built, well-maintained home. I have a good opinion of that. I don't care if your stuff's out. I have had lenders say, "What's all that clutter?" And I'm like, the kids are going on camping. Stuff was out. That, I mean, if it's a hoarder house, I'm going to comment on that, but haven't done one of those in a long time. So,
all right. Well, thank you so very much for your time today.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. Thank you. Much appreciated.
All righty.
Thanks, Leon.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Councilmember. Thank you.
We will now hear from the Office of the Secretary of the District of Columbia. And in that presentation, we'll also learn more about the Commission on Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The Office of the Secretary provides protocol and public records management services to the mayor and the district government agencies, in addition to managing the District of Columbia's archives, commissioning all District of Columbia notary public, and publishing the District of Columbia Register and the District of Columbia municipal regulations. The Office of the Secretary is responsible for maintaining official records of mayoral action and preparing executive orders, proclamations, directives, and administrative issuance. The Secretary of the District of Columbia is responsible for authenticating the proper use of the seal of the District of Columbia. She attests to the authenticity of official records, bond documents, and documents of the executive branch. And the Secretary serves as the Chief Protocol Officer of the district. The Office of the Secretary is made up of 6 offices with several functional areas: Ceremonial Services Unit, Office of Documents and Administrative Issuance, Office of the Notary Commission, Office of Protocol and International Affairs, Office of Public Records and Archives, and the Office of the Secretary. The Office of the Secretary also manages the District of Columbia's archives, commission of all District of Columbia notaries public, and publishes the register and municipal regulations. So now we do have a panel of public witnesses. And so I'll call them all up together. Let's see, I have Kimberly Bender, founder of the DC Archives Advocates Group, Trudy Peterson, who is the chair of the Archives Advisory Group, Katarina Herring, public witness, Fitz Mulhauser, co-chair of the DC Open Government Coalition, and Carl Bergman, member of the Friends of the Archives. And I think everyone, yes, they're all here. And so we'll start with Ms. Bender. We'll start with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairperson Bonds, for the opportunity to testify. As you just introduced me, I'm Kim Bender. I am the Executive Director of the Hierocast Museum. I'm also a member of the DC Council's Archives Advisory Group, but today I'm testifying as the co-founder of the DC Archives Advocates Group. I'm before you with continuing concerns about the Office of Public Records in DC Archives. In the past, we have testified before this committee and its predecessor committees during the Office of the Secretary's oversight hearing and expressed concerns about the ongoing physical degradation of our public records. The majority of what we said then is still true. The district's archives is still the largest and most important collection of DC history in existence, and the collections are still degrading in improper storage and accessible at a level well below its peers in other state archives. We are pleased to note some movement related to the building of a new DC Archives facility at UDC. Last month, DGS issued a notice that they would be moving forward with a sole source contract with Hartman Cox Architects, who have conducted numerous studies related to a new archives facility in past years. Yet this movement to expend large sums of money is extremely risky without an administrator, now which has been renamed as state archivist, to guide and design the process and prepare for the collections for a move into a new building. While we believe the Secretary has done her best during COVID to serve the Office of Public Records, her duties are too expansive and the project is too specialized for her to give it the necessary attention. Without an experienced cultural administrator within OPR, DGS will have no real client for whom to build an archives building. There will be no expert who is an internal champion for the archives. So imagine if the MLK Library project had moved forward without a library executive director. Without someone in this role, there is no way DGS can deliver a forward-looking archive facility. The mayor alone has the power to ensure the position of state archivist is attractive to qualified professionals. It will require her to increase funding and explicitly commit to the mission of the archives. But these investments will be rewarded with a better facility and archival operations that contribute to the district to a degree that has not been so far feasible. We believe the mayor and secretary should take the following actions to fill the state archivist position. First, they should immediately fill the position that is called the state archivist now instead of administrator. The secretary has already done the role a great service by renaming it. As I mentioned, the role is akin to an executive director of the DC Public Library. It should be given the salary and benefits that suit a role of that nature. The secretary and the mayor should make the state archivist position apolitical. This is very important. The new state archivist should be shielded from changes in political whim and administration so that they can confidently lead a complicated long-term project. The lack of job security currently provided to this role may be one of the reasons why it has not yet been filled. And they should provide necessary resources to a new state archivist. The creation of a new state-of-the-art archives for the district not only involves building a new structure, but it also involves processing the backlog of thousands of boxes of historic paperwork, the creation of programs to serve the public, and everything in between. The mayor should provide the state archivist with the budget, staffing, and symbolic support that they need to undertake this enormous task. Without a qualified and experienced state archivist in their role before the building is designed, we are likely to end up with a brand new warehouse that does not meet the needs of OPR or district citizens. Please help us encourage the mayor to do what's right for our city's most important historic assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And I do have a number of questions. So I'm looking forward to talking with this panel.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you very much,
All right now.
Chairperson. I come here today representing the Archives Advisory Group to the City Council. This was a body that was created by the Budget Support Act of 2020. We are 7 members. We were sworn in November. And our mandate is specifically to give advice on the construction and operation of a new archives facility. As an advisory group, we have first set about figuring out what are the issues that we need to focus on. Now, let me be very clear. As Kim Bender has said, these are problems that long predate the current secretary and her office. These are problems that have been allowed to accumulate over decades and have resulted in an archives that is simply inadequate in any terms by other states, by other cities, and by other capital cities. And remember, we're not just a city archives, we're a capital city archives. So we have identified 6 issues that we believe we need to follow up on as the building of the new facility progresses. First of all, we need to understand what records are actually going to go into this building. The district, to the best of our knowledge, does not have a comprehensive view of all the records it has. We thank you very much, Chairwoman Bonds, for visiting Naylor Court, and you've seen what's there. There's also records out in the National Archives, but there are awfully many records that are in the offices of agencies. Agencies have rented offsite storage space. We know there are a lot of records in the police and the fire department and DDOT, and we really don't know the quantity of records that have to go into this new building. Even more, we don't know how many audiovisual records there are, how many oversized records like maps and architectural drawings, and most seriously, there are no permanent electronic records in the DC archives at moment. And we know that for 20 years, the DC government has run on electronic records, and that has to be solved. So we really need to understand all the material that needs to go in there. Second, we need to understand the programs that are going to be held there. There are technical archival programs and there are public programs that are going to be held there. Do we need auditorium space? How many viewings do we expect of researchers coming in to use audiovisual materials, and so on? Another set of issues that really need to be discussed and determined as the Office of the Secretary gives advice to the builders who will design the facility. The fourth thing, as Kim Bender has said, is to ensure that there is enough staff to do this. There frankly is not enough staff right now to do a move safely and securely. There simply is not enough to go out and do a survey of records. There isn't enough to do planning for what kind of facilities are actually needed within the complex. It is important in the long term, of course, to have a leader, a state archivist. It's important, however, also to have staffing. And in the short term, I think there is going to have to be authority to contract for some additional staff that are not permanent positions, but will enable the job to get done. Fifth, we think that there are some legal and structural issues that need to be addressed about the scope and authorities of the archives and how that will relate to what the material is in the facility itself. And sixth, we very much need to increase the public awareness and support for this facility and what it could be for the city. So to reiterate, we think that these are the following needs right now. First of all, the need to obtain the staffing needed. Secondly, resources for a comprehensive records survey of what's going into the building. Third, support to determine the technical needs of the building. Fourth, determining the resources for public programming that will go forward, which will affect, of course, the planning for space. Fifth, a program to involve the public as the building goes forward so they can see what's being developed, so they can follow the developments, so they can have input into the programs there. And sixth, assistance to the Office of the Secretary to develop a functional staffing plan for operating the buildings. We can't have a building that gets built and material put in it without staffing to make it this kind of facility that we think it needs to be. We know this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Cities don't build archives buildings very often. We've never built one in the District of Columbia. And so this is our opportunity, but there is a lot of work ahead. And we will be testifying as the Archives Advisory Group at the budget hearing on these issues that we think are essential to develop the facility that we all know the district needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And we are definitely going to be talking on this. Next, we have Ms. Herring. All right.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So, dear Chair Bonds, dear committee members, my name is Katharina Herring, and I'm the president and longtime secretary of the Friends of the DC Archives. I'm also a professional archivist and a digital archive specialist. The Friends of the DC Archives, established in 2014, are a group of archivists, records managers, and other engaged citizens who advocate for the DC Archives. I do want to begin by acknowledging the creation of the Archives Advisory Group by the DC Council, and we've heard the excellent testimony from Kim Bender and Tori Huskan-Peterson. This group is an important step forward in supporting the development of a new state-of-the-art archival facility at UDC. I do appreciate the testimony by Secretary Bassett, which we're going to hear, acknowledging the progress that's been made at Naylor Court, including the shelf list and update of the retention schedules of 60 government agencies. I also want to acknowledge the progress in contracting the design for the new archival facility at UDC. At the same time, I want to highlight, as the other testimonials have said, that much needs to be done in order to prepare the archives for the move. There is a long way to go, not only in the construction of a new building, but also in developing the operational capacity. Particularly desperate is the staffing situation. Prior to 2020, the archives had a very small staff of 6 full-time employees. In reality, the staff is currently down to 4 employees, and as has been said, the state archivist position, open since the fall of 2020, has not been filled yet. The staff is hardworking and professional, but the current staff is much too small to adequately serve researchers, even at the current facility, and is in no way sufficient to operate a new state-of-the-art arts facility. Just to give you a comparison, the Maryland State Archives, which manages a similar volume of records that the district is supposed to manage, has a staff of 71 people. And my hometown of Berlin in Germany, another capital city state archives, has a staff of 75 people. If the development of a new facility and the move shall succeed, the staffing at the OPR urgently needs to be increased, and this needs to start right now. Especially urgent is the need to increase OPR's records management staff. Currently, only 1 full-time staff member at the OPR is dedicated to records management and oversees the implementation of the retention schedules of DC's 80+ agencies. This is utterly inadequate. The OPR urgently needs more professional full-time record managers to work with the agencies and ensure the preservation of DC records, including the electronic records. I urge the mayor to increase OPR's budget and ensure funding of at least 2 additional full-time dedicated employees dedicated to records management, including electronic records management. Records management is important for many reasons. It not only provides the foundation to preserve DC's historical legacy, it is vital to ensure good governance, transparency, and efficient management of the DC government. I also urge to hire staff to develop and professionally manage a digital asset management system for the district's official records, and much of these records are electronic now. These records need to be managed professionally, including the video recordings of the ongoing performance oversight hearings. Expanding the operation capacity needs to start now and cannot wait until the new facility is built. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Mr. Milhauser.
Thank you very much, Chairman Bonds, and thank you for letting us testify. I'm Fritz Mulhauser. I'm the co-chair of the legal committee of the DC Open Government Coalition. I began my professional life as a historian, a user of archives. I have been a researcher in the district and for the US Congress, and I've been a civil rights attorney in the district for many decades. I'm here to speak from our Open Government Coalition perspective on behalf of users. These are those who will rely on the archives and its wonderful news space, and who have been struggling to find records through the legal processes of public records requests, open meetings, open data, but who have lacked provision that they deserve in our wonderful city. We adopt the vision of the National Archives. To remind you what our National Archives says about the importance and to set a goal that we should embrace, they say the mission is to provide public access to government records because that strengthens democracy. It allows Americans to claim their rights of citizenship, hold their government accountable, understand their history, and so they can participate more effectively in their government. That's a nice ringing set of goals, and I hope we could have the same spirit going forward in the district. It will require sound policies, effective leadership, and adequate resources, as my colleagues have already told you in detail. And that's a joint responsibility between the council and the executive. And unfortunately, we're just not where we need to be. Your committee leadership is needed to bring about and stimulate the progress that we need in these dimensions. Let me start by just saying we lack a vision here for what our archives can be, in the same sense that the National Archives had that wonderful language I just read. We speak to requesters every day. They can't find consistent retention of records across agencies or across time. The Police Reform Commission, for example, just a year ago, couldn't get full police records. First, they were denied, which seemed unlawful in some cases, but in other cases, they were scattered across offices and departments and divisions. They couldn't do their work. There's another barrier for requesters, a lack of policy on retention of what matters. In the 21st century, there are electronic records that aren't being kept because no one is minding the store. The mayor in litigation recently admitted she uses a secret electronic messaging app. It's called WhatsApp. And she agreed under court pressure to allow that she needed to search it to discover important messages possibly sent during January 6th crisis. There's no citywide guidance on that matter. And there are persistent delays in simply finding necessary records. In 2019, a quarter of those requested took more than the legal limit of 15 days to come up with by the agencies. And in 2020, although it was a tough year, half the records requested, 5,000 of them, took more than the legal time, although the council did waive the deadline of enforceability. But it just suggests how our agencies are not able to find things that they do know they have. More generally, as you were told, again, let me just emphasize, record retention plans that we can read online are 10 years old. Is that sound management? And the idea that there are no electronic records formally being kept, that's stunning. We're 20 years into the digital age, more than that if you count the late 90s, and there's no formal accounting and keeping of electronic records. This just suggests the agenda that lies ahead. You started an advisory committee project in the council in 2019, but never funded it. They were to come up with an action plan. We need to revisit that concept with your leadership. The Archives Advisory Group is wonderful, and you heard their expertise today, but the broader picture needs attention. We call on you to hold at least one, if not 2 or 3 roundtables in all parts of our community to hear from the community what they would like to know and be able to do to dig into our history in the district, and that the archives should help facilitate. A new executive director should be on board to take part in that wonderful notion that history is a public resource, and other executive branch agencies. And I don't know if the judicial branch records are properly safeguarded. So there's work to do to bring us all together and come up with the vision, which then can tell us, the staff, the facilities and the technologies and the resources that we need to do the job right. That's the overarching ask for your committee, is to do the work of the conversation of a vision for the archives. There are two urgent pieces which you've heard today, and I add our voice. First, the filling of the archivist position is urgent. When the building is under discussion by architects, there will be green eye shade people at the table, budget people and contract managers, but the professional archivist who has an eye on the community needs to be at the table, or they'll simply nickel and dime the plans to death in order to save money. Leadership in designing the building needs to come from a world-class archivist that we haven't yet found through our recruitment. The committee should do everything you can to encourage the executive to promptly fill this position. It's been vacant for a long time, inaptly described, underfunded at salary levels. Let me suggest professional recruitment help is obviously needed. The chairman of the council recently allowed a committee's request for professional recruitment help to fill a child ombudsman position. Please use your committee authority to ask for professional help so we recruit the archivist that we really need. Get that person on board while important things are being done at the conference tables of the executive branch. Second, the visioning, the filling of the position, and third, urgently needed, is that you keep an eye on the funding for the costs of the building. Look, the building was funded in the capital budget years ago. The millions set aside probably are no longer enough for the plans, even those published in 2015 when the architect first began looking at it. Inflation since then is almost 20%. We can't cut back the building to trim the costs. That can't be the alternative. And the council has to make that clear to the executive that we're willing to step up and fund a priceless long-term asset for the future generations. Please keep close track of the plans and assure that the funds are available so that an excellent facility with ambitious programming is the objective. There'll be tough choices, of course, but with a good archivist at the table and the council's eye on the needed resources, we can do it. In 2017, the executive tasked the architects to cut things back, and those documents are not public, to my knowledge. Please ask the executive when we're going to see what the chosen architects have already chopped out from the plans, and make sure that those aren't taken as givens. The public has not seen the statement of work for the next stage of Hartman Cox's work. It's a wonderful group. It's built some beautiful school buildings and others for us in the district. But we have to know what the executive has told them is the scope of work in case they've set an impossibly low target. Please stay on top of the design and costs. Here's another phrase from the National Archives of what we want: cutting edge access to extraordinary volumes of information, paper and digital, and unprecedented engagement to bring greater meaning to the District of Columbia experience. We look forward to working with the council and all the great colleagues on this panel to making a really great archives in the next few years. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Bergman, we'll have your testimony now, please.
Thank you very much.
And welcome.
My name is Carl Bergman, and I'm testifying for the Friends of the DC Archives. Before I begin, I want to thank the chair for her visit to the current DC Archives. There's no better way to see what we currently have, how precious it is, and what we need to preserve its future. Our organization, which was formed 8 years ago, the FDCA, our members to our professional archivists and concerned citizens. Our interest is in the preservation and management of the district's records and archives. As the committee is aware, and has reiterated this afternoon, the district lacks a modern archives facility. Fortunately, the council created the Archives Advisory Group to look at the facility issue. We strongly support the group and recognize the difficult path before it. The group is the single most important event in this project's long and to a great extent, quite sad history. Planning for moving to the new archives requires several resources that OPR simply does not have. It will also require studies that have been long sought but never done. For example, OPR needs to hire professional and trained state archivists, and that has been reiterated. It needs to hire staff or consultants or both to help with preparing the move. We can't expect the current overworked staff to fulfill their regular duties and also prepare for the move. We especially need to know how many records the city owns, where they are, and how many there are. It makes little sense to build the new facility without knowing what should go into it. The consultant, Hartman Cox, recommended the study 7 years ago. It has never been done. In addition to Naylor Court's holdings, there are over 45,000 cubic feet of DC holdings, give or take by some estimate. For example, the police and fire departments have uncounted holdings, as does the Department of Transportation. The independent agencies have untold records. There are about 162,000 cubic feet of records in federal storage. The storage is not cheap. It costs the district $650,000 per year. There are unaccounted records in other federal locations, such as the Department of Labor. Finally, I want to address, as has been done by others, the capital budget project for the facility. The committee should be aware that it will not have two critical attributes. First, it will be built without any expansion capability. It may well be the only new archives project in the United States, or for that matter in the world, that does not plan for expansion. Second, it will be built to LEED Gold, not platinum standards. This is going to be the most technical building the district's ever built, and we're not going to hold it to the highest technical standards. It's unbelievable. Both of these omissions are not due to some architectural or engineering reason. They are due to an arbitrary cap that was placed on the facility budget. Rather than building a facility to meet the district's needs, it will be built to meet an arbitrary standard. We intend to have a lot more to say about the building, its budget at the budget review. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak today.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the entire panel. I have a number of questions. Much of the testimony is, I guess, reminding me of the importance of the first piece of testimony that you provide. I'll treat it that way because it is so very, very important. As you know, this is a new agency for my committee, and I had no idea. I had no idea that this process had been going on for so long. I recall the days when a dear friend of mine was very concerned, an ex-professor, retired professor, was very concerned about the archives and how we were remiss to not have proper facility and preparation of the documents. So, you know, I heard that just like most people in the city will hear it, but it's only when you have the opportunity to visit the facility, Mr. Bergman, that I really felt what was going on. I mean, so much paper, and paper that is not yet preserved. And so that's a concern. Excuse me. One of my first questions is, as we are thinking about the archives, I think I heard you, Mr. Mulhauser, indicate it's the history of the city and the history of our government. And so as I hear these terms, I'm suddenly seeing an expansion of space, need of space. Because when I talk to people in community, they want to talk about the history that they too remember. So it's maybe, you know, having served in an agency or aware of policies that we put in place years ago. And so what I want to know, is it in your vision that there would be room for that additional information to be contained in these archives?
I think the public history notion embraces a wide range of artifacts, records, documents, voices, film, tape, and it's the job of the wonderful profession that Ms. Peterson knows well, and others in this group, to choose what we can manage to collect, and then to make it accessible to the public. Access by the public to this treasure house is not simply spreading a box of records on a conference table, but educational programs and teaching programs and wonderful visual displays that awaken the imagination and curiosity. So your instinct, Chairman Bonds, is precisely right. The goal of the archives is to capture our heritage and make it accessible. And the professionals know very well how to do it. And we've got to let them do their job and give them the resources that will accomplish it.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. The question about the current plan, that is a lead gold, but no plan to expand. Has the Archives Advisory Group or Friends of the Archives been made aware what the current plan is by square footage, type of material that the new facility would contain? Anyone?
I think Carl Bergman can
Yes,
speak
ma'am,
to some of
to an
that.
extent.
All right.
The Hartman Cox group did a study of the UDC site in 2018. And they came up with several scenarios for the size and the fit of the facility. And what happened was, this was based on a memorandum of agreement between UDC and OPR. However, that agreement was abrogated because the cost was seen as too high, and there was an arbitrary cap of $70 million placed on the facility, which eliminated a lot of these portions of it, especially for expansion, and downgraded it from LEED Platinum, which the city has been building at, to LEED Gold. Just among others, several of our high schools would be built to a higher standard than our archives facility as a result of that.
Yes, we're very famous for our very attractive, expansive high school facilities. Okay, have the architects indicated the size of the structure that would fit with what they know about the volume of, the cubic feet of papers and maps and what have you we will need?
That's the problem. What they used was a study that they did in 2015 for their, however, that study has in one of its appendices, the survey of various agencies says these are just rough estimates. We need to make a better survey, and that's never happened. So the estimate they have, as I said, was very much like shooting an arrow and then drawing a bullseye around it.
All right, so clearly we have to first, as was brought out, I think, by each of you, we first got to understand what it is or decide what it is that we're going to keep. What are the records that we're going to keep? And sounds like we're almost at square one, at least in you all's opinion. I think one of the first things we have to do is maybe we need to have a hearing to talk about what would be the contents, the proposed contents of our archives. And that might help us. And then zero in on the type of personnel that are really needed. Maybe that's better than starting with the personnel and then, so I'm definitely open to expanding your thoughts further into community through a hearing process. 100%. Yes, Ms. Bender, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the concept of having a leader at the top of the organization, because a lot of the things we're discussing here right now are questions that an expert internal to an organization could take on and have a vision and leadership for, with input from us and input from the public. And the lack of leadership, I think, is why we have all of these problems now, that there is no one atop the archives, there's no state archivist, as there would be in another state, that is in charge of all of these things. We've had an administrator. It's not equal to what I believe the job description has been changed to be much bigger than that. And that, to me, would actually help us organize this conversation to have leadership at the top.
I hear you loud and clear. And I have this question in my mind, and it's provocative. It's maybe changes things, but are we thinking through what you know about this process and the time and energy that you've spent on this process, that we need an independent archives process in the District of Columbia?
I very much believe we need an independent agency as an archives.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Yes, I totally agree with you about that. And every other cultural organization in the city-owned culture is independent. The library is an independent agency. The DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities is independent. It just gives enough political independence to help. So I totally agree with you about that.
And let me add that the Archives of the United States reports to the president.
All right, so this archives will report to our mayor.
No.
It doesn't.
Right now it does.
Well, almost. Well, no, it's indirect. It reports to the secretary of the district.
Right, but
you don't have to go far for examples. You just look at Maryland and Virginia. And I would suggest that you bring in the people from Maryland and Virginia to talk about how they do their archives, because I think you will find that the difference is incredibly stark, that they've given not only a status, but a funding level that's far beyond what the district has done.
All right. Ms. Herring, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to add and reiterate that in Maryland, for example, the state archives are also an independent agency. So I think, benefiting from their expertise also would really help the conversation.
Okay.
Notice that from our experience in helping requesters of public records, we come across the sad fact that there is no central leadership and guidance to help with the question of keeping what records need to be kept to meet freedom of information requirements. And so the requesters must cope with agencies' own idiosyncratic views of what they need to keep and what they don't. The presence of a records management plan with high-level support would start to overcome that. But at present, there is nobody in the executive branch that gives guidance about freedom of information records retention, with the result that emails, for example, are retained differently in different places, and some things are not kept at all that should be. So it's the position of the archivist could help strengthen the keeping as well as the use of public records, and having it at the highest level is very important.
So, Mr. Mulhauser, you are seeing that within this facility, all email records, all discussions, any notes related to a subject matter that is under the auspices of an agency would be maintained or kept?
That's what our archives do, is keep track of the work of government, but they make judicious choices of what matters. That's crucial, but it also needs a very wise hand, aware of what others do in this field, what the needs of analysts, researchers, and the law will be. For example, in Mayor Fenty's term, an anxious bureaucrat said, "It's costing us too much to keep emails. We should just throw them away after 6 months." The community hit the roof and said, "Have you not thought for a minute of what the use of the modern electronic record of government is? No, you can't just issue such a personal judgment of what costs too much." And to her everlasting credit, Carol Schwartz passed through the council legislation which took away from the executive the making of rules about retention of such important records. But we need top level leadership so that the important stuff gets kept. Simple as that.
And that's a major
please.
job of the archives. An archivist has really two big responsibilities. One is to decide what is worth keeping and what can be thrown away. And the other is to tell the public what they have, so the public can use it, so the public has access. Access rules are set by typically governments, legislatures, or whatever, and archives make sure that those rules are in place and are observed when they make the records available to the public. But making the decision of what to keep and telling the public what you have are absolutely fundamental.
All right. So that brings me twist around to making sure we have leadership at the top that can implement these rules, these regulations. Okay. And that's why it's so critical that we have an archives immediately in order to get this job done. Well, I appreciate your you educating me about the details of progress or lack thereof that we are making on this. It's from what I saw in my visit, it is a monumental task. And you've told me today that, oh, what I saw was minuscule in comparison to what we may have. Then you've said to me that all of what I saw and all of what is wherever it is, we have to designate what part of it will go into our modern archives facility. And then we have to manage it so that when you and I and everyone else wants to see it, we can observe it, can look at it, can be a part of it. And we also want to use it as an educational opportunity to talk about who the District of Columbia is and where it's been and where it's going indirectly. So, wow, this is, yes, thank you so very much for your input. I'm getting excited about this program, so I just want you to know. And I will keep my eye on this, and I'm going to consider myself one of you, okay? Because I talk to people all the time that want to know about the history, particularly newcomers, and then those of us who are longstanding residents, we want to make sure that things that we can recall in our history are part of what is maintained as well. So you've got these two tracks operating, and that's what makes our archives very, very strong. So thank you. I'm so happy I had this opportunity to spend this time with you. Thank you very, very much for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, and we will be in touch, and we will be getting things done on my oath. All right.
Thank you.
So now we will hear from Kimberly Bassett, our secretary of the District of Columbia, and I'm sure she has many thoughts to report as it relates to archives, and also we'll let her go right into any conversation that she wants to have regarding the Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission. Secretary, welcome.
Hi, council member. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Oh yeah, hi, how are you?
You can begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds, members of the committee, staff, and guests. My name is Kimberly Bassett, and I'm the Secretary of State for the District of Columbia. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss the FY21-22 performance oversight for the Office of the Secretary of the District of Columbia. I'd first like to thank all of the archive advocates that testified today. We really do appreciate you, and we thank you for your interest and your enthusiasm about the DC archives. Today, I'm pleased to be joined virtually by the senior members of my team, Alma Candelaria, Deputy Secretary, Victor L. Reed, the Administrator for the Office of Documents and Administrative Issuances, who also serves as the OS General Counsel. I'd also like to welcome the heads of each of my departments, including the Director of the Notary Commission and Authentications, Judy Gold, Weewick Wimbrant, Operations Manager, and two new additions to our team, the Director of Ceremonial Services Unit, Terry Handy, and our new Chief of Protocol and International Affairs, Christine Warnicki, who are also joined with me today.
All right, well, Madam Secretary, since you have your full court here, could all of you raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you give today is accurate and complete?
I do.
All right, and your team, you're speaking for them, I suppose. All right, okay, please go forward with your testimony.
Both Terry and Christine joined us at the office a few months ago. They replaced two of our senior staff members who retired in 2021. Beverly Perry, the senior advisor to the Mayor Bowser, will also share with the committee later this month some of the highlights from the Office of the Secretary on behalf of the Office of the Senior Advisor. And I'd like to thank Ms. Perry for her amazing leadership. Today, I'll be sharing details about the activities and accomplishments of each of the respective offices and the units that operate within the Office of the Secretary. The Office of the Secretary is comparable to the Secretary of State's office in other states and U.S. territories. It's the official resource for protocol, legal records, District of Columbia history, and ceremonial recognitions for the public, governments, and the international community. Our office is also the official custodian of the corporate seal of the District of Columbia. The Office of the Secretary is comprised of 4 offices and 1 unit. Office of Notary Commissions and Authentications, Office of Documents and Administrative Issuances, Office of Protocol and International Affairs, and the Office of the Public Record and Archives, and the Ceremonial Unit, with a staff total of 27. After almost 2 years of operating in a modified posture, the Office of the Secretary continues to offer services to constituents and have made adjustments to all our programs under the district COVID-19 guidelines. As a public-facing office, OS works diligently to ensure services to residents that they remain available during this unprecedented time. The Office of the Notary Commissions and Authentications, ANCA Commission, the Notaries Public and the Commission Notaries Republic and authenticates the documents for foreign use. The COVID-19 public health emergency has severely impacted the operations of this office. I want to thank the staff at ANCA who've continued to provide the ultimate customer service during this public health pandemic. The office has continued to receive notary applications without interruptions during the pandemic due to an automized process that was implemented in FY19. In the first 2 months of the pandemic with the office, it was closed to the public and it was unable to offer the oath of office and notary applications. But beginning in May 2020, the staff started to offer temporary oaths of office by telephone. Beginning in June 2020, staff started returning to the office to process mail-in requests for authentications. In August 2021, the office allowed walk-in customers for authentications and serves about 190 walk-in customers weekly. In September 2021, the office started allowing all notaries who had taken the temporary oath to come into the office to obtain their notary certificate. Now that the office has returned to normal operations, all notary applicants whose applications have been approved can now come in the office in person and take the oath of office. Prior to October 2021, the applicants were mandated to complete the orientation via email, and now in-person orientation has resumed. ANCA processes about 50 notary applications weekly, and FYI, the office received 6,878 applicants. Among those, only 2,345 applicants have been approved. With automation and the ease of submitting applications, we found that many applicants submitted applications more than once. Since the automation was implemented, an average of 30% of the applicants completed the whole process to be commissioned as notary public. The rest of the applicants never completed application requirements, did not submit the fee, or did not attend the scheduled orientation. The Office of Documents and Administrative Issuance, ODAI, has continued to publish the District of Columbia Register every week, uninterrupted, since Mayor Bowser declared the public health emergency in March 2020. The staff has drafted, processed, and published the District of Columbia Register remotely while teleworking. During the FY21, the Office of Documents reviewed, processed, and issued 23 critical COVID-19 related mayor's orders. The Office of Documents reviewed, edited, processed, and published 355 rulemakings in FY21 and reviewed, edited, and processed, published 144 mayor's orders. The office published 52 District of Columbia register volumes, including 14,531 pages. The Office of Documents drafted and compiled the FY 2020 District Government Annual FOIA Report. The FOIA report totaled more than 600 pages. The Office of Documents filed the report with the council in March of 2021. The Office of Protocol and International Affairs, OPIA, continues to serve as the liaison to the diplomatic and international community in Washington, D.C. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there had been a pause in in-person events among the international community. But OS has participated in hybrid events hosted by diplomatic community and embassies around Washington, D.C. Between FY21 and FY22, we've engaged and met with ambassadors and representatives from over 80 countries. These meetings are successful in a variety of ways, including connecting embassies with resources that DC has to offer, as well as fostering deeper friendships with members of the diplomatic community. OS continues to provide informational resources to the diplomatic community during COVID-19 public health emergency by assisting requests regarding mayor's orders and guidance, district-wide operation status, economic and reopening, COVID-19 testing, COVID-19 vaccinations, and partnerships with U.S. federal agencies such as the U.S. State Department. The activities of our sister city partners have resumed in a hybrid form. In January 2021, Mayor Bowser attended the virtual ribbon cutting for the digital library in San Salvador, El Salvador. This event officially closed out the last deliverable items in the sister city agreement between Washington, D.C. and San Salvador, El Salvador, signed in 2018. The office facilitated a meeting between Mayor Bowser and Mayor Mouchon of San Salvador at the close of Mayor Mouchon's term as mayor, April 2021. And in July 2021, we participated in the reception of the inauguration of the Little Lady Liberty at the residence of the French ambassador on Bastille Day, alongside Secretary Anthony Blinken and French Foreign Minister Le Drian. Additionally, Mayor Bowser met with Ambassador Fitsum of Ethiopia in September 2021, and most recently, we hosted the visit of South Korean delegation from the Korean consulate in New York City to the DC lab in December 2021. The Mayor's Embassy's Neighborhood Task Force has been very effective in solving embassy and neighborhood issues. The task force continues to function in a COVID-19 environment by addressing and solving problems via conference calls and email. The task force facilitates better relationships between DC residents and embassies and has created a channel for communication for both the federal government, for DC government, the DC Council, and DC residents. Since its inception, the task force has successfully addressed issues such as trash and parking concerns, vacant foreign properties, noise complaints, and much more. The number of requests for ceremonial documents had previously declined at the beginning of the pandemic, But now we've turned to pre-pandemic numbers. The office continues to fulfill requests, providing each requester with an electronic copy of their document upon request. We mail hard copy documents or arrange for pickup. Our office also continues to work with the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs to translate some ceremonial documents with different languages that are widely spoken in Washington, D.C. The Office of Public Records, OPR, opened to the public in August 2021 after being closed in March 2020 due to the pandemic. Even though research hours were suspended, the staff continued to fulfill requests for records that were received by phone and email. On a few occasions, the office allowed scheduled visits from researchers to come in and review building plans and to conduct land record research. In FY 2021, OS completed updating 16 record retention schedules for 16 independent agencies. And out of 90 agencies that OS oversees, 60 agencies have currently received updated retention schedules. The office plans to organize regular training and meetings with the agency's records management staff members to educate them on how to properly execute retention of records and retention schedules for their respective agencies. OPR continues to work towards the goal of moving to a new building. It is recommended that the new archives be outfitted with proper storage environment and that it can accommodate record storage space as well as research, visitor, and museum space. The building will also contain new mechanical and electrical systems that meet the needs of modern archives facilities. As for preparation for the move, the staff has completed a box-by-box inventory of what is known in the library world as a shelf read. Building 41 at UDC's Van Ness campus has been identified for the new archives facility. DGS is working to engage Hartman Cox Architects and plans to begin the design phase of this project in FY22. The design phase is estimated to take 18 months. The Office of the Secretary works with several other organizations and city agencies to coordinate various ceremonies, conventions, parades, and festivals, including the Martin Luther King Holiday Commission, the DC Emancipation Commission, and the National Cherry Blossom Festival. I also serve as a board member to the National Cherry Blossom. I chair and advise the Commission on the Martin Luther Jr. King Holiday. I'm the chair of the District of Columbia Emancipation Commemoration Commission. The Office of the Secretary also has a role in the mayor's swearing-in ceremony and oversees the DC One Fund campaign and the DC Democracy Grant. Due to the pandemic, many events that OS has participated and organized were held virtually in FY21 and FY22. At the onset of the public health emergency in 2020, the Emancipation Commemoration Commission made a tough decision to cancel all 2020 events. But in 2021, after adjusting to the new normal, the commission returned to a pre-COVID emancipation celebration, using virtual platforms to organize numerous events celebrating the April 16th public holiday. A major highlight of the 2021 celebrations was the production of the 1-hour documentary, Becoming Douglas Commonwealth, from DC to Disenfranchisement to the Full Democracy, which chronicled the district's long and complicated journey towards becoming the 51st state, Douglas Commonwealth, which aired on TV stations WUS9 and DCN. The Commission on the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday assists the mayor with the district's celebration to commemorate the birth of Dr. King. And both FY21 and FY22, the commission participated in the annual Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Breakfast organized by the United Planning Organization. And this year, the commissioners volunteered to pack COVID-19 at-home test kits at the Arthur Caper Community Center in honor of the 2022 Martin Luther King Day of Service. In honor of this year's celebration, volunteers packed 10,000 at-home kits on Monday, January 17th, 2022. The commissioners also participated in various MLK events around the city, including the 2022 MLK Peace Walk and the MLK Shabbat celebration hosted by the Washington Hebrew Congregation on Friday, January 14th, 2022. But as mentioned, the Office of the Secretary administers the DC Democracy Grant, which awards $200,000 and grant funds each year to advance the district's statehood effort. Keeping in line with Mayor Bowser's priority of funding fresh ideas, we identified appropriate organizations through an RFA process to further promote voting rights and statehood for the district. The recipients for the FY22 will be announced in the coming week, and our goal for this year's grant remains the same: to strengthen awareness for statehood for Washington, D.C. The Office of the Secretary also executed another successful DC One Fund campaign, this year chaired by Director of the District of Columbia's Department of Employment Services, Dr. Unique Morris Hughes. The 2021 DC One Fund was held in a hybrid posture, allowing for fundraising to take place while keeping public health guidance at the forefront of all activities. In 2021, the DC One Fund campaign raised $1.24 million. In closing, I'd like to thank you, Chairperson Bonds, for your leadership and your support. We really appreciate the opportunity to share our accomplishments and plans for continuous improvement. And I look forward to continuing to work with this committee. And this concludes my presentation. My staff and I are here, and we're happy to address your questions at this time. Council member, I can't tell if you're speaking.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that testimony. I see that the office has been quite busy, not missing a beat. I know that the whole community appreciates continuing to have the DC Register published. I'll start there because that's one of the comments that we always get. And of course, we at the council have to follow your rules as to when we get information in so it can be publicized, and then so that we can hold our wonderful mini hearings that we do. So thank you so much for that. Also, can you, I think you mentioned that the FOIA report is 600 pages. Do you have handy the number of FOIA requests that number represents?
I can tell you right now.
All right.
Let's see. We initially sent an email with forms and instruction to 84 agencies and FOIA officers. I do not know exactly how many we've received in FY22 21. Victor, can you speak to that? Director Reed? So Director Reed isn't on, but I do know that in FY22, we did complete our report. We sent an email and forms to 84 agencies and their FOIA officers. You know, there's been a significant movement in retirements among agencies and FOIA officers. So we immediately began to get undeliverable messages. And so that began a really laborious process of tracking down new agency FOIA officers through our contacts who were Office of Documents, customers, and basically through website searches. And though the deadline for filing the FOIA report with the council is February 1st, 2022, we're still receiving agency reports, including 9 February 1st. And as February 8th, 2022, we're still waiting for 14 reports. So we're waiting for about 17%. And we should receive several reports by the end of this week and several more next week. And the report, we even have some that are expected on February 23rd of this year. So I expect the FY 2020 report will be filed with council on or before the 28th of this year. So
okay. Well, on that, thank you so very much for that very thorough response. Is it possible, can I get from your agency a compilation of the well, I want to know the number and the agencies that when I want to have something that is informative about the date or the week in which you receive reports from the agencies. You said there are 84 agencies that you outreach to. And so in this report, it would be those that you have received for this year or whatever the record is for this year and the record for the previous year. And maybe we need to go to the year of FY year 2019. What I'm looking at is whether or not there's been any real change in the mode of operations, the way the agencies perform because of COVID, or is it this is their usual?
Well, I can say that we've received 70 of the 84. So we're still waiting on 14, but
okay.
Victor has his hand raised, so he's able to
okay.
comment.
Okay, Victor, please tell us.
Director Reed, I'm sorry, Director Reed.
Okay, all right, I see now it's Victor.Reed. Okay, all right, sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I don't have the direct information that you are asking me at my fingertips. So I would need to do the research to compile it into as simple a form as possible to transmit that to you.
All right.
I can tell you though that if you're looking for response times to FOIA requests, those did change from FY19 through FY20 to FY21. In FY20, the major change was pursuant to emergency legislation that extended the response period. So you will definitely see a change from 19 to 20, and then again through 2021, even though there wasn't that emergency tolling provisions in place at that time.
All right. Well, that's good to know. So if you could you think within 2 weeks, you might be able to get us something in writing? And we will get, why don't we do this? Staff will just send over a little request and that way it'll be easier. Yeah.
Okay. It will be helpful if we can give that to you after we file the report.
Okay. All right. I got you.
So that we aren't doing two things simultaneously.
All right. Okay, we will work on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then I wanted to ask about Madam Secretary, you said that your office is open to researchers and some reference to records retention. Are they related, or is it something, two different things?
So it's two different things. Researchers come in to do research on vital statistics. They do land research, land record research. There's all different types of research that they come into the office and do. Also, we've been taking their requests over the phone, and our researchers have been handling these requests over the phone. So they go, they find the information, they've been copying the information and emailing it to our requesters. But now that we're opening back up again on the 14th, they'll be able to come in and do the research that they normally do.
Okay, now is this research about something that is, well, is this the archives research that you're speaking of?
Some of it is, some of it is. Sometimes people have requests such as that, and they contact our archivist. His name is Bill Branch, and they do research, and they have it for them when they come. It's laid out for the researchers. They're able to do the research that they have to do within the time frame, and then they leave. So yes, some of it's that. Sometimes it's our land records. Those are very heavy. They're very hard to copy. So you really need to come in person to look at those land records. So we get quite a few of those requests. And we usually, what we've done is we've had people sign in. We've really been keeping a list of the researchers that request documents over the phone and researchers that come in. And it's a lot of it is the same people. We are getting a lot more researchers that have not been there before, but there's certain people that do this type of research, and they're very familiar with our staff and our team. And many of the advocates have just visited the archives with you for the first time.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get my thoughts around this. So your office has a system where if I want to know, you said land records, if I want to look at or research square and a lot within a city, I can come to your office and do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We definitely have a system, council member. We know where our documents are. Some of the documents that are not in NARA or not in our building, those documents we do have to assess. They talked about documents that some of the agencies have, but we have worked with an outside vendor, and we have gone to all of these agencies, 60, and done record retention schedules. And what that means is that we go and we do an assessment of all the documents that people have in the archives, in their respective agencies. And we do a schedule, and they tell us what things are important, what things aren't. There's a big process that goes on. They're interviewed, and then we find out what records need to be disposed of, what years they need to be disposed of, and we do that. We follow through. And so to have 60, this is really amazing. We haven't had it in a very long time, and we plan to finish the rest. And we also plan to train, as I mentioned, our agency record retention managers, which we're finding, quite often they're volunteers from the agencies. They're also people leave, and a new record retention manager comes and then they don't let us know. So, we have to train them. But we do have a system in place that has definitely been working. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
Okay, so let's see if we can, you're talking about the archives and the testimony, the public testimony that I received earlier. Okay, and so you're saying for the 60 agencies, there has been conversation between your office and the archives. Okay, because that's a part of your office.
Yes.
And the agency to determine the documents that they are to hold on to or to keep preserved. So that's in place.
Yes. And we
So
also
you have of the 84, 60 of the 84 have done that. So you have the remainder agencies to work with, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All
We've
right.
also done small agencies. The 16, they were small agencies. They did mention that we haven't touched them, and we have.
Well, I'm not trying to in any way interrogate about what the previous testimony is. I am just trying to, for the public's benefit, help them understand that exactly what's going on in your office, that you have the archives process, that 60 agencies know what kind of documents they are to retain, and therefore, assuming they're working on it, so they would be able to say to you the volume, the cubic volume of materials that they will be in keeping that should go into this archives facility that you have explained will be building 42 at UDC, correct? Am I correct on that?
Yes, building 41. So
Oh, 41, okay.
Cubic square feet, we can't identify. However, we can identify the types of documents they have.
Okay.
And the types of documents that they should keep and the types of documents they should
Okay.
keep.
And so that leaves a few other agencies that you haven't gotten to yet, but you're slowly but surely going to talk with them and they go to the same thing. Now, the list of documents that you are asking these 60 agencies to retain, is it the same? I mean, it's the same kind of documents.
No, there isn't. Each agency has different documents.
Okay, but what I'm saying is every agency asked to retain emails regarding a service delivery product or regarding a discussion about a new program? I mean, what kind of guidance do you give these 60 agencies as to what to retain?
Well, it depends on the agency tells us. So the agency tells us the documents that they have, the documents that are important to them, and the documents that are important to DC residents. So we don't tell them, they tell us. And then there's a process, and I don't know, but I've learned a lot about archives. I don't know the process that they go through to figure out what's important, what's not. But I could definitely have our archivist explain it to you. He's not on the call right now, but he could go into more depth about what that is.
Now, Mr. Branch, did I meet him when we did the walkthrough? Is he new? Or
no, Mr. Branch has been there for a very long time.
That's what I thought.
When you came, Mr. Branch was he wasn't in that day.
He wasn't there, but they mentioned he was on leave. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
all right.
He wanted to be there.
Okay, so you tell him, please, I'm looking forward to meeting with him. So tell him we'll have tea. And I'd love to learn more about how he sees things. Well, I have to ask you, as I asked the other group, are we at a point where it would benefit the the government, if this entity, the archives, were independent, would that really make for a smoother process? Or what are your thoughts? Or do you have some thoughts on that?
Well, I am on the board of the National Association of Secretaries of State. And the majority of the Secretaries of State's offices, the archives is under their purview. So we're usually attached to the archives, most Secretaries of State. They do operate the same way we do, where the Secretaries of State oversees them, as well as the governor oversees their offices. So this is not something that's different from most other states. I do think that we're in the process of becoming a state archives. We found a place. And quite frankly, some other states, Vermont, a lot of other states have just built new archives facilities as well. And they're state of the art, they're amazing. And I've been partnering with quite a few secretaries just to talk to them about how to understand what the process is like. So we are not the only state that operates in this posture.
Okay. Let's see. I could go into a little more detail about what is the planning process for the new archives. Do you have a timeline? Do you have an action plan for how we're going to deliver this archives building with materials, saved materials inside it?
So no, we have not started, but we are in the process of beginning. Hartman Cox is going to be probably the sole source vendor right now, as it looks.
Why would they be the sole source?
Because Hartman Cox have spent many years, like since 2015, then 2018, helping us with this project, and they have a lot of expertise. They also have an archivist on staff who's been very instrumental in helping us. So we're going through the process, and we put it on the portal that the DGS uses, and we didn't get any responses. So it seems to be moving in the right direction to use Hartman
So
Cox.
you're saying that DGS was advertising for a company that could do this product, create this facility. Is that what you're saying? And they did not get responses?
Well, they did that prior, but they approached it as a sole source. And we were trying to see if there's anybody else who's interested. Is there any opposition? And we didn't get any of that. So now the process is moving forward.
I see. Okay, well, I'll get back to you on that for sure. And so what do you see as the public's role in providing comments as it relates to the construction of the archives building?
Well, I think like no other state, the District of Columbia is really blessed to have advocates that we have. They're very well versed on archives, and I think that's a very positive thing for us. And quite a few people have shown interest. They really want this to be successful. And I'm really excited too, Councilmember Bonds. I think that we're on the right track. Our archives is moving. It's people know about us. We're doing more social media around our archives. And so I'm really excited about what the future holds. I'm also excited about our advocates I have a good relationship with them. I speak to some of them regularly. I give them updates. As you know, we have opened the archives up. We asked them to come and visit. Some of them have. We're probably going to have more to come in to visit and go on all the floors so they can see the actual archives on all the floors and just really get to know our current team of people that work there. So I think that a lot of that has been going on, and I think that's very positive for the archives. Now that we're engaging Hartman Cox for the design and engineering phase, we definitely will pull in our advocates to like give us feedback. I mean, their feedback is great. We want to know what they want this archives to be, and we're going to have a process to get their feedback.
Okay. You indicated in your pre-hearing question number 55 that the newly established Archives Advisory Group, that's the group you're speaking of, I presume.
Well, there are 3 different groups and
I
one.
know, that's why I'm so confused. I'm trying to figure it out.
There are 3 different groups. So some of them testified for their group, and Trudy Peterson testified for the Archives Advocates. So she was the official council representative, and the rest were, they represented their groups. But the groups are now combined. And we also
you know, I asked for a copy of any minutes, and I was told they don't do minutes. I've never heard of a meeting session where, I mean, how does this happen? Because it says that you have been invited to the meetings. I assume you go to the meetings, correct?
So
and you're in my committee, but I don't get any feedback. So where is the feedback going? Does it go to the chairman? Or where? Oh, I see. But you're in my, okay. So then I have to plead with the chairman to get a copy of any discussions that you have.
They're all recorded.
Then you should be in the chairman's committee. You know, committee of the whole or something. I'm just saying it makes it very difficult to try and do oversight when we don't have access to the information that's being shared.
I don't think this committee is under the oversight. I don't think it's a task force. I don't think it follows the same rules as an oversight. You know, it doesn't have oversight. So we meet, they record the meetings, but I've been to one meeting where I was actually a panelist, where I got to, you know, interact. And the rest of the meetings, my team and DGS, we're only on as viewers of the meeting. And so we don't get to interact during the meetings.
So you're not really an official member. You can just see them doing their thing. I see. Makes it very difficult to do oversight. I mean, that's what I'm responsible for doing. And how do I do oversight of you or your office and this function if it's, you know, in the stratosphere somewhere that, you know, anyway, we'll try at the council level to have some parity here so that we can move forward. But and I mention that because the archive seems to be a big concern for, you know, people in the community. And you just pointed out the 3 different groups of citizens that are very, very anxious and concerned about this. And so we really do need to straighten this out. And I'll work with you to do that, okay? Most definitely. So in your opinion, you have already filled the position of archives.
No, actually, we still have 2 positions in the archive.
Okay,
we have 5, and then we have 2 more. So we're getting ready to hire a record retention manager. And we also are in the process of hiring an administrator, a state archivist. And we've had some really positive developments in that. And we're hoping that the candidates that we've interviewed are going to be the candidate. So look out. I think we're going to have a state archivist pretty soon rather than later. So I'm excited about that too.
So you are planning on filling 2 positions, records retention director,
Mm-hmm.
and then the state administrator,
Yes.
which will be at the top of the pyramid of, okay.
Yes, that's who
And-
they were mentioning.
Okay, earlier today, I think it was pointed out that the need for a couple of other persons. In fact, they said that with records management, you only had 1 person working with records management for the 80+ agencies. And in Maryland, they have 71. And Maryland's archives is considered on a comparable size as to what we would have in the district. So you don't have any plans for adding at least 1 or 2 additional records management personnel?
Well, basically we have 3 people that do record retention management in our office. 2, so 1 person solely does it, but everyone else pitches in. And they work really hard, and we're always excited about and hopeful that more people will come to work to the archives. But right now we have our staff and we do the best we can with the staff that we have. And I think they've done an exceptional job considering, all the jobs. In the
And
archives.
I know that at this point, I shouldn't be asking you if you need more staff. I know that's a no-no in the budget process, but just thinking about the workload, could you benefit from at least 2 additional records managers? I mean, is there that kind of workload there?
Yes, we could benefit from.
Okay, all right. And we will not hold that against you for giving that answer. Thank you so very much. The automation of the notary application. How is that going? And because I know there's the DigiDoc that provides operational support and maintenance for the automated notary system at the portal that you use with a portal. How is that going?
So we have been automated, and it's been really helpful during this process, the COVID-19 epidemic, based on when we just really started getting into gear in the very beginning of COVID, where we were just starting to be automated. And I think that they've done a good job with using the platform. And yes, DigiDocs did make some changes to the platform so that we were able to do electronic notes, oaths over, and doing, applications, electronic applications where people didn't have to come in, they could do it online. And the process was easier. And then we did their oaths over the phone. So we figured out a way to use our technology to, execute that process. And I think it's gone well so far.
One of the things that the public witnesses pointed out is the need for the management or retention of the electronic files. And in your opinion, is that what is being included in this design? Do you have a copy of the design that I can see? Or maybe I need to have a meeting with your team that you are have a lot of confidence in, that so we'll know, at least from the public's perspective. Or has this archives group been looking at these plans? I'm trying to figure out, since today I heard from two different groups. There's another group I understand. So I'm trying to understand whether who is looking at what group of plans, or are there plans that anyone is looking at? And
so I think, council member, with the archives, they're talking about digitization. So they're talking about emails and that sort of thing. So that's separate from the notary process. So
yes. No,
everybody
definitely.
today,
I'm sorry. We are now. Yes, I am.
so now,
Now
you're talking about the e-notarization process. I think that's what we're talking about
now.
now.
Right now I'm talking. You've given me your answer on that. Yeah, Digi. We talked about Digi. What I'm talking about now is when the archives group presented, they made it very clear that whatever space, cubic square feet that we need, it also will have to store electronic records. I'm thinking the taping of hearings and things like that.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking, is within the architectural drawings, firstly, have architectural drawings been prepared?
No, not.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
we're working on that part now.
Okay. All right. So you're working on that, and you're working on that separate and apart from what the groups that met with me today or provided testimony. They're not aware of what you're doing, is what you're saying.
Well, again, Hartman Cox will help us to design and plan what the archives will look like, what it'll be. And absolutely, there is a part of the archives that are going to have to deal with automation, deal with the types of records that you're talking about, and that will definitely be included in the
So
plan.
there is a likelihood that the questions about, or the concern about, the facility not having enough square footage or not having the right kind of square footage to accommodate the types of record keeping documents and materials, may be simply that people who are sharing this opinion are not aware of what you're doing with this contractor.
So initially, we had said it was going to be 79,000 square feet, which is quite large. And the documents that they're talking about that are in different locations, we haven't assessed them yet, so we don't know what we're going to give away, what's going to be destroyed, what we're going to keep. So those records will have to be assessed. Also, digitization, a lot of the records are going to be digitized. And so that's another way of storing. So 79,000 square feet is what we have planned, and the monies we have planned will go to building a facility that is that large. And
so
again,
is that $70 million for this facility, or is it less?
73 million.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And construction is, in your mind, planned to begin in this calendar year?
Oh no, probably in 18 months. right now it's just the planning and the designing and all of those things that we talked about.
So what is your budget for the planning? Your planning budget?
So we did receive, we do have $1 million currently. And in 2023, we're going to get an additional 2 million. I want to give you the exact amount that I have, but it's around 2 million. Yes, in FY23 budget is for 2.713 million. That's already been approved.
Okay. And to that, we're going to add 73 million.
And yes.
All right. All right, I thank you for that. Let's see. I know that we have 15 cities that we are a part of the Sister Cities program.
Yes.
Does the mayor plan on visiting these locations with any scheduled time, or is it that these locations are on paper and they correspond with the secretary's office occasionally, and we correspond with their secretary's office occasionally, and that's it? I'm trying to understand how the Sister Cities program is operating today.
So I'm sorry, Councilmember, the sun is okay. Our relationships with our sister cities, I don't think that the mayor's planning on visiting any of these cities in the near future right now, but our sister cities programs, you know, we do programs with France, we do programs with Southern England, we do programs with the Italian embassy. So we don't actually go to their countries, but we host their, sometimes we host their visitors, their diplomats that come. We do meetings that we do best practices with them. We also like celebrate their national days with them. Sometimes recently we're having meetings with our arts commission to plan events that we could do with our sister cities. So there's all types of interaction with our sister cities. However, the actual visiting, you know, we did visit Ethiopia and we renewed our sister city agreement with them. And, you know, we visited El Salvador, and you see we were able to build this virtual library in El Salvador. So the Sister Cities program is like working, and it's doing what it's supposed to do as far as, you know, our relationships with these cities. But actually visiting them, we do it virtually and we do it in person, you know, by way of the embassies.
Okay. Well, I noted on the list was Beijing, and here we are busy with the Winter Olympics. I was wondering if there were some way for us to have our good DC flag somewhere within it, since this is our sister city. But just a thought, just wondering about
Great
that.
idea.
Just wondering about that. Let's talk finally about the commission, Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission. Are all of the members active? Is it?
So all of our members are not active as we'd like them to be, but we have a large number who are, we have 12 members, and I would say maybe 1 or 2 of the 12 aren't as active for so many reasons, because we've been in a pandemic for, you know, 2 years. we were really excited. We planned on this program with the DC Library. It was going to be around MLK Day. And we were so excited about it, but because of the new variant, we had to put a halt to it. And we pivoted and did a community service project together as a commission. And then some of our commissioners did the peace walk this year. And we always participate in the UPO breakfast and support the UPO's MLK breakfast. So yes, we're active, but it's slowed down a little. It's slowed down a bit.
Okay. I noticed in your presentation earlier, you mentioned emancipation. And of course, that's not in this committee. It's in your office, but it's in another committee. We've got a lot of those actions here that we have to cover.
That committee is very active. They're very, very active. Yes.
I see. Okay.
But as you see, we have some real standouts, and on our MLK commission meeting, holiday commission, and they give us lots of ideas. And also, council member, we participate in events all through the year that may lean towards Black history or MLK. You know, during COVID, all our members of MLK Commission walked across the Frederick Douglass Bridge together. And so that was really great. I had seen you there, like that was something. So every time there's something that's kind of focused on Black history in some way, and volunteerism, we all try to make sure that they're aware and that we participate together as a group.
I was just curious as to how much outreach does your office do with our schools? It just seems like this is a big advantage that you could give to our school population, to learn about our other cultures without having to go to, as you say, El Salvador or to, another location like Senegal or someplace like that.
So I
was just wondering if you take school groups to embassies or arrange programs for school groups to learn about other cultures.
So we are very, very active with the embassy adoption program through DC Public Schools, and also through, we help recruit embassies to participate in those programs. They're students, so I don't have the authority to kind of take students, but I do participate with them. I also participate in their Model UN, and then their travel abroad programs. We connect them with embassies, but our program at DCPS, which is amazing, and we just participate and help when we're needed. And I go to events when they invite us, when the embassies and ambassadors are making presentations. Also, we participate with some of our community partners. Cultural Tourism DC does Passport DC. We're very active with them. We help to recruit embassies to participate in that, where they have like hundreds of thousands of people, including students, who attend that. We also work with the World Trade Center, and we do the Embassy Chefs Challenge, and we also help them to recruit embassies to come. They set up booths where they show some of their culture, and they also have different food, and all the DC Public School children are aware. And even when we celebrated the 35th anniversary of our sister city agreement with China, we did special events with the students, and we even created a workbook about China with the embassy, and also with one of our really great organizations, the Confucius Center here in the city, to do that. And we paid for that. And so every opportunity that we have to be with young people, I speak at schools as well. So every opportunity that we have, we are there. Also, during Emancipation Day prior to COVID, we did reenactments at schools in the 4th grade, so we're trying to, if we're back, we're going to be back in schools. But right now, I've been participating in like virtual programming and that sort of thing.
All right, well, that's a good note to end on. I know we've gone a while, but I certainly appreciate getting your testimony. One final question. When you talk about the budget of your office, can you make sure that you break down the resources that you attribute to the programming that you do, such as, I know that it's usually in the 4 different buckets, but could you sort of break out the monies that we spend to, I'll call it, educate our young people through these activities? I think that would be very, very important to show to the public.
Okay.
All right, so thank you very much for your testimony, and thank you, Dr. Reed, for hanging in there with us. I see your mic is still open, so thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, and thanks to everyone today who participated in the performance oversight hearing. We certainly learned a great deal, and I hope that those who watched have a better understanding of the work of these agencies over the past year. I believe our city is better for their work, and I am hopeful that our future is much brighter. If the public has any additional thoughts or would like to submit written testimony regarding the performance of these agencies, please email it to housing@dccouncil.us, and it will be included in the hearing record. I want to thank my staff for being very diligent as well today. And with that said, the hearing record will close 1 week from today on Wednesday, the 16th of February at 5 p.m. And the committee's next public hearing will be on Monday, the 14th of February at 10 a.m. on Bill 24-419, No Senior Hungry Omnibus Amendment Act of 2021. This concludes our hearing today. And with that, the time is 3:38 p.m. on February the 9th, 2022. And this meeting is adjourned. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Council Member. Thank you, Director Reed. Thank you so much.